Good evening, 6:30 PM, March 26, 2026. I call the Select Board Special Business Meeting to order. If you are able, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being broadcast live on TCTV channel cable station 8 and on the YouTube web platform. A recording will be available on TCTV YouTube channel later on. At this time, for cell phones are silent. Please recording the meeting. Thank you. First item up is the discussion on fiscal 27 budget. The town administrator, we're gonna have to decide on how we want to approach the budget moving forward.
Sure. I mean, I just put my name there because someone's name's gonna be there, but this is really your time to discuss what direction you would like to go in. Just to recap, we had the big Saturday budget meeting. All the departments except the police chief came in and presented to you. Plenty of time to ask questions. Then 2 Mondays later, the police chief presented, which was, a couple days ago. In order to help the board, I also, based off hearing some comments, like I said, I created just an exercise to show you what cuts might look like. But again, I wasn't making suggestions or anything. I just wanted to help inform and show you what this could look like, and also I think challenges of balancing through cuts. So we're here to I think try and make ground. It's your town, and a lovely town at that, and it's up to you what direction you'd like us to go in. So, turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair, for any general discussion, on the budget.
So we've been presented with a budget that, everything lined up, we can fund it. And then it was presented to what we have for revenue from the various sources. A little over $1 million in budget cuts. We've given a little over $2 million increase in our school assessment bill from the previous year. There is the option of bringing forth the budget with the cuts, the town meeting. Town meeting can decide on the school budget. They could pass it, and then we would have to come back and visit our budget. Town meeting has the option of voting no on the school budget. It will go back to the school committee, and that goes back and forth. If we don't have a budget agreed on by July 1, it will go into what's called the 1/12 budget. The DESI commissioner gets involved. He gets to look at it and sets a budget. We can go back and forth all summer long. The school committee gets in there. December 1st, the state will intervene and will decide to set the budget until if the towns in the district can get together. On that item, I have a question whether we have a regional school agreement. If we technically going by 77, that's K through 12. If you go by the next one or the current situation, it's pre-K through 12. So that's another decision we would have to make. If we choose to go override, then there's an approach to decide how much. Do we want to give multiple choices to the ballot, the voters, when they go to the ballot? We have to get that to the town clerk. The drop deadline is April 13th, so the week of April 6th. If we, we decide on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, she has to have that by the 13th, the questions to put on there, if we go that way. So, Mr. May, you have thoughts on this?
Oh, I got so many thoughts, I don't know where to begin.
So first, would you, the budget cuts, presenting the budget to town meeting with million plus cuts?
I honestly, myself, I'd like to see what the budget looks like with no override.
I mean, I can give you a general idea, not to cut you off.
No, no.
Yep.
You're fine.
Oh, can I talk? Can I go? Okay. So 910 that I showed you, that would obviously be where I'd started. So if I'm gonna cut the rest, so I think I have the slide somewhere, but it's what we showed you the other night. We still had I think 1.6 left, give or take. Let's say somehow the school could find 680,000 more. No, what?
I'm just talking about the town side of the budget,
Okay,
not with anything to do with the school, just the town side of the budget.
well, closing the deficit would involve them well. So, so let's say 1 million more, because they'll take the rest. So 910 from us and 1 million more. So I have to get to 1 million. So in that presentation I showed you, and I'm not trying to be cynical or anything, like I said, it's your town, but I took from all the low hanging fruits and I would say the medium hanging fruits. And in that 910, there was some serious changes, like changes the way Parks and Rec does things, changes the way cable does things. And honestly, giving public safety budgets that probably aren't overly realistic. And so to cut 1 million more would probably look something like this. Closing the senior center and the library and laying off those employees and saving as much as I can there. And I think in the budget, maybe that adds up to 340 or something, 340,000. A couple police officers, a couple firefighters. We have one unfilled DPW position, so we'd leave that unfilled. Then I would add all of that up, all of the associated benefits. And so I would have to, because you know how unions work, last in, first out. So if they were on family plans, we save more. If they were on single plans, health insurance, we'd save a little less, but I'd add all that up. I'd have to add back 7 months of 50% pay for unemployment insurance. And then I would see from there where we are. Hopefully that would be about 1 million, but I'm not sure. After that, then I would have to begin looking at town hall hours. And so if we closed a day here, you'd have to cut employee salaries equivalently, for lack of a better word. So you're looking at a possible fundamental change. So like, if you're laying off police officers, we'd have to ask the chief exactly what that means. I would assume it's probably losing the midnight shift. So the state police would, answer Templeton calls.
Could I interject here?
Sure.
Because if I remember correctly, when we all started this, the town side was $1.6 million in the hole.
Now that's the whole thing, including the school. Well, no, all right. So I don't know. I don't know how you're looking at it. I look at
You had one, originally it was presented as like 1.6 upside down for the town and 2 million upside down for the school, for a total of $3,490,000 and change upside down, which is now 3,528,000.
So I never presented it that way. I always presented it like here in your source and uses, which showed the school as part of it.
Right. That's just not how my brain works.
Well, so deciding how much the school has to eat of the deficit is a conversation.
Well, I'm just saying, if you took the school's deficit completely off the table and tried to get our side of the remaining balance down to zero, or down to
But how would you define the school's part of it though? Anything above 2.5%?
The school is asking for 2 million additional, correct? In the override.
Well, no, they're not asking for an over, they're asking for a 2 million increase over last year, I believe.
Okay, so let's
Yeah,
say,
yes.
take that 2 million
Okay,
and the balance of that is on the town.
1.5, yeah.
Right, that's what I would like to see.
Okay, so,
So that would add
10,
about 600,000, if I'm not mistaken, to your cut.
Sure.
5 million.
sure. So, yeah, I mean, I have to, in good conscience, prioritize public safety. You don't have too many police officers, you don't have too many firefighters, so probably the first place is senior center and library. But that's a choice for you. I could give you different scenarios. I don't want to lay off and hurt anybody. I have a special connection to libraries myself. But I have to think of, making sure your streets are passable and your people are protected, people and property are protected.
Well, that's what I'm doing too, but they don't get kicked out of their home for the taxes. Because that's a big possibility. I mean, if you look at the school's presentation, I believe they reported that 34% of the kids at school are under poverty level. So that basically means that 10% of our population anyway is under poverty level. And then we have 18%, and I'm gonna say aren't having the kids, which are the senior citizens. So that's 28% of our population is on a fixed income that's either at or below the poverty level. Yeah, it's like a third of the town that we're putting at jeopardy by raising taxes. And it's a scary thing for me to sit here and not vigorously cut every nickel that I can see before going to the taxpayers and asking for additional money because, for whatever reason. But for a reason that doesn't benefit them directly. And I think you'll see that, there's a significant portion of the taxpayers that any additional funds are gonna be, between paying taxes and buying food. So, I, the position we're in concerns me greatly. And I'm not 100% clear on why we're so far behind and how we're ever gonna get out of it, other than just doing this again next year. And so if I can't see a way out of it, that's not gonna change next year's presentation from this year's presentation, why do we keep going? Because it can't. Somebody's gotta say no at some point. There is a limit. If the state hasn't followed through or backed up any of their statements, the money we got from the state, how much additional money do we get from the state this year? If you have it, an idea.
I mean, UGA was, I think, 3 points. So unrestricted general government aid was something like 3.5%. It's not a lot. And that's assuming that FY26 number. It's assuming that FY26 number was correct.
Because that change and school is. 38,
Yeah,
it's almost like what they.
why they even bother meeting? It costs more money to meet. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, the town can't afford to be coming up to $3 million, every 2 years or every year, coming up with $1 million, $1.5 million. It's just, it's not gonna fly. So at some point, we gotta find out, and that's why I do agree with Jeff. We gotta find out about the school agreement. Cause that's big, all the way around.
I mean, the thing I'll say about the school agreement, Mr. May, is that that's not, whatever it is, it's not something we can solve in the next few months. I know you and Mr. Bennett had the one question, and I'll try and hurry up Harrington Heat more. They were waiting to get some information from the MSBA to answer that pre-K question. They have been working on it. We've exchanged emails and had some meetings on it because we're trying to get information over here and trying to get it over here, and now they're just going to ask MSBA. They've been working. They sent us some other answers to some other questions. I'll try and hurry them up. But I don't think, because we're not going to have that agreement. Nothing's going to change between now and the fiscal year, at least now when we have to set our budget.
Well, us knowing whether we have an agreement or not, we should.
Well, you do. You have a 1977 agreement. The Harrington Heap already, opined on that. That was a question I was asked a while back. But there's a question about pre-K, and that's what they're working on now.
And they're working on the building part of it too, right?
Which part?
The building part of it, capital. That
Uh,
was part of that question that I sent you too, was
yeah, I mean,
regarding, I think it was section 4.
okay. Yeah, I don't remember. They have the whole thing, and
Okay.
that's why they're talking about the MSBA, because they want to get it in the MSBA agreement and stuff like that.
Yeah, because that's my concern. If we present an override, we present an override. I think we probably should do it as a more than one option. For the override. I think that would be, let's say, give them the choice of, okay, this barely gets us by, or this gets us by, and this does, that, and then this and this, then, or something along those lines. I just, I'll pass that back to you, Mr. Bennett.
What I handed out was that, I contacted the assessor's office, a couple weeks back. And I asked for, and this is just off the top of my head, nothing we have to stick with, we could go more. To look at, say, what would 5 million do? How far out would that carry us? But I did 1 million, a 2 million, and a 3 million. The increase in the tax rate, which is tax rate goes up, the tax rate is not really something to look at. I mean, it really, we're focusing because it's your real estate bill, because the tax rate can go down and your tax bill can either go up, either down, depending on valuations. But for 1 million, an increase in the tax rate, based on the tax rate we have right now, because we don't know how valuations will go and what the tax rate will be for next year, because town's meeting's got to vote to spend the money before we know what it's got to be. But right now, the information that we have, $1 million override would equal an 83-cent increase in the current tax rate. That would be an increase on the average single-family home of $313.98. And the average single-family home value is $378,285. And the current tax rate is $11.87. A dollar on the tax rate right now raises $1,199,579. So the total amount on the average single-family house tax bill would go to $4,804.22. If we do, and that would just about balance it's a little short, but that would come close to having a balanced general fund budget. It would not help with anything outside this. The $2 million override would increase the current tax rate by $1.67. Increase on the taxes on the average single family home, $631.74. The average yearly tax bill real estate would be $5,121.98. A $3 million override, which would just about balance the general fund budget and and cover the school increase assessment. There's a $2.50 increase on the current tax rate. That would be an average single-family home increase of $945.72. For the single-family home tax bill, $5,435.96. That was my options when I picked it because of the presentation. And then when we got the school assessment bill of $2,019,000 and some change, I was looking at like 3 million. Well, that would get us probably this year and maybe the next fiscal year. I would have to ask what a $5 million override would do and how far out that would get us as far as, and the implications. So, and plus all of this, add this $1 million to our current levy limit, and then add the 2.5%, which you can get off the DLS site and work that up, and we could show what we would have for a tax levy for 2028 and beyond. And a $5 million one, what would that impact be? How far would that, could we estimate that would even things out so we would be not in a bind for, like next year or the year after. There were a bunch of towns doing overrides. Athol has a two-tiered question. They have one that will take care of 27 and I think 28, and then they have another option. They estimate will take care of them for 5 years. In 5 years, I guess. If we, I don't know if we're gonna be upside down that quick. But school costs are going up. I don't think I sent it out everybody, but I will tomorrow. So we can have this when we have our final or when we gotta make a decision on the budget and an override. As far as the busing contract and the teachers contract that was just signed last November, October, a year ago. So we're a year into those two contracts. On a note, the teachers contract, member town did not get a vote on those per the law. The school said they weren't aware of it. So I inquired about that to the inspector general, and they didn't say that that would make that contract void. They kind of went around in circles. So I tried to get an answer, but again, that's something we would have one vote, us or Phillips, then whoever. It's only one vote, but we didn't get our vote on that.
Is it my turn now?
So I guess I would ask if there is a
Oh, I would like
thought
to,
of the board.
I'd like to say a few things, like you asked Mr. May, I like my turn, I think that Lisa should have, and
Okay.
Tim, our term about the budget. To ask some things and say some things, and then we can go on to the override conversation. So we all sat through the budget hearings, and what I found fascinating is that it was everything in the kitchen sink. Everybody gets a COLA. I mean, not even like $1 taken out of a supply budget. Like, if you look at budget book 2025, you look at 2026, you can see that there's a higher realm in 2025. We came down lower in our numbers that we had for a budget for all the departments across the board in 2026. But yet, everything in the kitchen sink was in there. And there was plenty of room you're not gonna break $1.5 million or for the town, but you're gonna cut some of it. And I can't believe that even if we were to do any kind of override, that we would be doing an extra job we were doing raises, like, my neighbors and the people in this town are not gonna accept that either, you know? It's one thing if you have a contract and you have contractually, you have to do some raises because it's part of a contract, that's fine. And yes, we have incredible people that work for our town. But right now, we can't even break a budget and have it funded levelly. And that exercise, I'm sorry, but your exercise saying that training for the firemen and this is gone and this is gone. I watched this town when we had departments. We had a department that didn't have a budget and they were just relying on their revolving account doing not good things. So you're not even just giving them, something to cut the lawn or, in your budget, you just keep them out of your office that way. So even a little bit on like a Parks and Rec or TCTV, just for their supplies or something, or to cut the lawn or to pay for one person, is not smart in my mind to cut them out and put zero, even though they're running with a budget, bringing in fees and things like that. I played with, so every year in the budget book, we put the section, the section where it tells you select board and it tells you the code and it says how much money we're asking. And in 2025, the bottom number was 10,633,074. Well, the numbers just for those items, not talking about a few other ones that aren't listed, is 10 million is 12,313,261. And I just went and played with just knowing what I know about the various departments. And my number, I could get it down to, it's not super great, but I could go $11,988,639 just to cutting some supplies and various things based on my knowledge of 2025, 2026, and what they presented, sitting there listening to everybody and everybody asking questions in the room. So I'm not comfortable with us asking for any kind of override when we're not even willing to even cut the asks. Just the basic asks. If last year you got $500 for your supply because you're just like a little small little department, and this year asking $800, like, why aren't we cutting that? Why isn't it $5? Like, and they might have left $23 on the table. Like, it didn't seem like any of that homework was done on what I was presented. It was just like everybody came in from each department, said their thing, and then got whatever in this book. And there was no cuts made. But yet my experience in this town, having to pitch a budget, get going, and someone would say, hey, nope, that's too much money. The town can't afford extra seats or something, or this, or an extra worker. And they say, no, we're not going to let you put that in your budget. And of course, can you send me a new updated? And you accepted it, or you went to budget hearing day and you advocated for that position to the rest of them to see if they'll put it back in. But that's not what happened. This is just everything in the kitchen sink. Everybody gets increase in the cost of living. It's not even based on merit. Like, we have great people, but I'm sure there's probably nobody who doesn't deserve a raise. But ones if there is somebody, it seems like they're going to get a raise. And I'm just not comfortable even discussing to go for an override when we can't even do the basics and take down some of the budget a little bit. Even, I don't care if it's $500,000, if it's $100,000, it's $10,000, just something. Just to say, no, you don't get this. I've never been in a budget situation for any of my jobs that I ever was in my life where when I presented my budget, my boss didn't say, or a committee or a group didn't say, no, I'm sorry, you can't get this year, we can't afford it. And it seemed like we didn't say that to anybody. This book doesn't say that. And I'm sorry, James, but that's your job. You're supposed to ask. I expected to have the cuts, like, just
Okay, so no, that's not my job. It's your decision what direction you want to go in. I presented you a presentation worth $910,000 and I showed you where it came from. Last year, you guys cut 851,000 and in your budget, they're just lump sum numbers. I actually cut from places that could show you where they come from. And so they are,
But based on things.
no, they weren't, because they were,
Yeah,
because you
they-
guys lump summed it under each.
Yeah, he did, but when you were in the meeting with them, you knew what that number meant.
Okay, so I did more than that for you, and it sounds like you're saying you don't like it.
No, what you did was, you did a slideshow showing me that the fire department ain't getting training. And you did a slideshow telling me all these departments won't get any funding, but that's not what you do. You
Because
sit-
that's where the money
Sorry, But that's
is.
what you do. You sit in a meeting, the person comes in, they tell you what they want for their budget. And then you sit there with all the knowledge from the last 3 years and you say, and what was left on the table in their budgets, and you say, hey, guess what? You don't get $800 for your pens and paper, because you know what? The last 3 years, you got $400 and you didn't spend it all.
Okay, so
You
then,
didn't do that
All right.
anymore.
no, I did do that, and I sat with every department head, and I spent days doing it. This is what we
This
came up
book
with,
Doesn't reflect it.
because it's not my job to arbitrarily cut people's line items. They justified their line items. And if you want to talk about piddly things like $200 here, $300 here, that's not gonna balance your $3.5 million deficit. You have to take big swings to balance the
But-
deficit. And I took a $910,000 swing. Doesn't sound like you like it, and that's not even all of it. I'm
No,
telling you,
but
you
it's-
don't have an expense problem. When you cut expenses year after year, and you still have to give contractual raises and obligations, and then the costs of doing business, i.e. fuel and supplies and
I
line
understand.
panels goes up.
Sound very
You-
well.
you-
Let's get
you-
going.
It doesn't sound like you do.
Yeah.
And so on the expense
do.
side of the budget, you have less and less to cut every year.
I just wanted to say, I was
Excuse me, but-
very disappointed.
We're not here to argue. We have a budget presented. It's up to the select board. And in the past years, when there is a lump sum disallowed, that is, if you look at the numbers, the bottom line. Lump sum disallowed. It's up to the department head to decide, am I gonna spend this money on this, and this, and I'm not gonna buy this, and I'm not gonna buy that.
Right. But they knew what it was.
And just like the history of the town, and it's in the financial review of 2009 and 2021. The town has generally, with the exception of 2023, has just about spent max to the levy limit. And in past years, from 2004 up until 2012, spent all of their free cash balancing the general fund budget along with anywhere from $75,000 to $150,000 in surplus revenue from the light department. That money went away, and just like the reduction in state aid in 2008, 2009 era, it was done in the late 90s. That money has never been made up. We had, starting in about fiscal year 2018, when we had access to free cash, we started using a little bit of it, and then it increased and increased and increased. And we went from like 1.3 million. This year it's a little over $500,000. So you've lost that money. We covered a school bill with money out of the stabilization fund, 430,000. The next year, you have to find that money. These are decisions that were made before, this board is sitting at the table. The following year, you use $215,000 in free cash for the school budget. Now this year, it's $215,000, but you still have to find that money. And that's the issue with always using free cash to start paying the budget. If you have $10 million and you have 500,000 in free cash, you go, okay, town meeting spent 10 million. We got 500,000 in free cash, we subtract that. Okay, now we need 9,500,000. Okay, now you got new growth, local receipts. and then you get to 8 million, now you need that from taxation. If the next year you keep doing that and then the free cash goes away, local receipts go down, you have to make up that money, and the town has failed to do that. The last time we had an override was in 2018, 473,000, I think. Thereabouts, like fire, EMS, police, selectmen. A couple other things. Look at the snow and ice budget, it's 275,000 plus in the deficit. It's been brought up multiple years, and we just kept saying, nope, nope, we'll find that money at the end of the year. Instead of budgeting up, we go up a few $1,000s. And town meeting was told a pile of garbage at one annual meeting a few years back. We need to budget more money for snow and ice. The then town accountant stood up and said, if we go up to a higher number, like 350,000, the DOR will never let us go down to a low amount, which is a lot. You can. There's consequences to it, but town meeting can vote snow and ice, whatever they want. You look at the records, we've been using free cash to pay the snow and ice deficit for a lot of years. And it's biting us in the back pocket right now. Because in past years, the board has just said, yep, we'll just count on free cash. But just budget low, because what if we budget 400,000 and we only spend 250,000? Well, that's money that you can use to put in stabilization. You can transfer to cover shortfalls at the end of the year. There's a number of things to do with it. So short-sighting budgeting, in my opinion, has got us in this hole, because over the years, we were dependent on this money, that money is gone, and it hasn't been made up. So here. But that's the problem.
I look at this budget, the school troubles me. And through no fault of his own, this was the first year running through this. Mr. Ryan did the best with what we had. I think it's wrong to look at Narragansett and try to factor it in as a town department. It is not. They are a standalone entity, no different than Monty Tech and the Norfolk Aggie. Looking at a 23% increase is frightening. It's damn near criminal. They are bound by Prop 2.5, the same as every other agency in the state is. For 4 years in a row, ever since the ARPA and the ESSERS, we sit here every year. Dr. Cassavant doesn't understand, where's the 800,000? Where's the 900,000? Where's the million? I've explained it to him. We used the funds, and just like the free cash, we never figured it out, we never put it back. We dug the hole, we built a divide, we never filled it back in. Here we are. So it's a nightmare that was created. We have to live with it. This is a hard pill to swallow. Truly, truly is. And you got to sharpen the pencils. That's all I can say with that. Having been here when we've cut the town to the bare bones and beyond. I have grave concerns on closing the senior center, closing the library. Once we do that, our folks lose the ability to go to any of the surrounding towns, because that takes that out of our realm. That is the last thing I want to see us do. We need to keep those open at all costs. Same with our public safety. You know, I heard the comment, well, if we lose the overnight, we rely on the Massachusetts State Police. That is a frightening proposition. MSP cannot absorb covering all the communities within the area. Every region has a finite number of resources, and they can't be covering every little town that can't do its own work. The same as all the area fire departments can't be doing all the work that every other little town can't do. Mutual aid has its limits. And the same thing with the police. We've got to get this figured out. Do I like the idea of a Prop 2.5 override? No, I certainly do not. It's staring us in the face. I'm sitting here saying, how do we pull it off? I don't have an answer, but we gotta get smart with this. You raised an interesting point on where do we stand on a regional agreement? I will throw this out there just to think about for all of us as the board members. If we go into the DESI getting involved and the 1/12 budget for the school, the busing contract, the teachers' contracts, they're off the table. When you're in a 1/12 budget, DESI does not allow it. Contracts go on hold. So NRSD, paying attention, contracts go on hold. That is gospel. I've already looked it up. It's in the rules. Sorry. So we got to get real smart with this. Yes, it is scary. Yes, those are harsh words. It's out there. So we got to sharpen our pencils. We got to work together. And Mr. Ryan, no offense to you with what I said. I'm not intending it to be that way.
Yeah, it's okay.
Ms. Vasso?
So I don't like the idea of an override. I don't think the majority of the residents in town can afford it right now. The cost of living and everything else is raised.
Yep.
And people are struggling. So like Mr. May said, you're looking at, tax. Stuff like that. But looking through the proposed budget, I know you said that, cutting 200 here, 400 there, well, the little bit all adds up. Pinch pennies, it does, absolutely does. If you can save, like, for this, for instance, $240,000 for a new plow and sander.
That's not in the budget. So it's in his proposal,
That's his
but it's
proposal.
not in here. It's not in here. It's not in the deficit.
Right.
It's not in that.
But that's what he has listed, so like,
So your templates
Yeah.
are interesting in the sense that they combine operating and capital. So the select board earlier on decided that, for now anyways, we weren't gonna spend free cash on capital. So those things you see in there are already not included in this, but we still submitted them to you because they're part of your templates. So that's not in there. I can't cut that if it's not in there.
I'm just using that for an example, like, little things that might seem little to the department, they might need it, but don't necessarily need it right now. Might be something we could look at and, save here and there, but just really go through everything with a fine tooth comb and, that saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. A lot of departments live by that bill. So if we give them a smaller budget to operate without being detrimental, maybe they can live within their means and operate within their means. And it's not just, oh, we gotta spend it because it's there.
Mr. Chair.
It's going through a fine tooth comb, just looking at everything real close.
Joseph?
Yeah.
Mr. May?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up something off the back of what you were saying. In what me and James were talking about earlier. In this budget here that we're looking at, FY 27, snow and ice is funded to 173,000. So we'll still be looking at a large deficit after this. And my concern with that is, if we look at the present budget that we're in right now, and where we're at and what we're gonna have for free cash potentially next year, we have a roughly, in my recollection, around 350K sitting in special articles right now. That's unspent. So that could roll over. But, there's a question of whether we're gonna have, more than $2 left over from the individual department accounts. Because they weren't increased last year so much and there's the spending and so forth. So, if we're down on that, my concern is then, where are we getting that free cash from? Next year. That's, because I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be there soon. If it's not this year, it's next.
Because the budget went down, the cost of things have. And the money that was budgeted buys less.
Yeah.
I don't care, all cuts and buys, well. And we are hamstrung in many ways by. Mass General Law and procedures have not been looked at in a long time. One little thing I did when I was on the advisory committee, we used to have a pre-town hearing. That requires advertising in the newspaper. It's a legal thing. Those costs for them things have gone up through the roof. So we changed it, changed the bylaw to read, it was a pre-town meeting where everyone who wants to speak put away the hearing. But unfortunately, we have hearings, planning board, if you have to have a hearing, it has to go in the newspaper. And those things, like $175, $200 something dollars, and they gotta go in there twice. It's,
I have a.
we just haven't kept up with, so we're hamstrung by a lot of the stuff that we are required to do, that we don't have control over. There is a state mandate law that when they pass stuff, they are supposed to cover the cost, but remedy in the law that I looked it up, before Monday's meeting, is if you ask the state and they say no, the remedy is take it to Superior Court. So we're gonna spend money to try to win against the state, which,
I have a question. So say we went for a huge override like our neighboring town did. Is it true that they can come back in a year and have buyer's remorse and then they have a legal right? A bunch of them to request on the floor and underride?
an underride is something that citizens can put on the ballot by citizens petition. An override, the exclusions, capital exclusions can only be put on the ballot by the selectmen in the town. So, yes. A regular override. They could come back the following year and say, you know what, we're not happy. And by citizens petition, put an underride to lower the levy limit. That would go to the ballot, be voted on, same as an override. That is a possibility that's on the books. I think when I was looking at the override and the questions and the capacity that we have in other towns, I came across it, and surprisingly, underrides have, you count them on like one hand that have been put forth and successful, because it sounds good. But then when you cut the levy limit and you move forward, so oh, my taxes are gonna go down, but then if you want stuff, it's like, oops. Like, oh, now we're gonna close the library, we're gonna close this. And just as a reminder, in 2014, there was a $508,000 deficit found because there was errors in the budget presented to annual town meeting. They found it when they were doing the tax recap sheet. That's like almost the middle of the fiscal year. And 7 weeks, I believe, town departments were shut down. Police were barely running, and fire, and other than that, there was nothing going on. And if, departments can't run, if you don't get the tax rate done, the tax bills don't go out, people don't have to pay, they're not obligated to pay to get a tax bill and to pay it. April 1st or May 1st, and then your option to run, because the towns run on cash basis, take a ban out and borrow money until the money starts coming back in. I don't make the rules, it's just,
Well, I remember when the town cut about everything, like, what year was that?
as Mr. Talk alluded to, the boards over the years have, with the whole, we've tried to cut our way out of it, up there on boards that cut, we recessed town meeting in 2012, went and cut 160 some thousand out of the general fund budget, while we were having an increase in the school assessment of about 500 and something thousand. we went back and the school reduced their budget a little bit, but then we did an override and a special election, which is added cost in October. And 9 communities had an override in 2013, and Templeton was the only one that passed. So, and part of that override was about $60,000 or so to give hours back to the non-union people, because that's the low hanging fruit to cut, that we needed 100 and some thousand that we needed, and that's where we picked it from. So, again, it's, cut, but it's. That has come back now to bite us, and this is why, and we're not gonna cut $1 million out of here. You lose library certification, the state doesn't reimburse you some of the cost. No longer can you go any other library and get any books, nothing.
Yeah.
The senior center, 18-20% of population are the seniors. We just invested 300, I don't know,
Free for a
kitchen,
Yeah,
in that building, and now we're gonna shut it down.
So if we did an override,
Which is also our emergency.
if we recommended it, would, for the residents to make a choice if they want one. Would it be better to do a tier, like a couple of options, like the other towns are doing? Or just be like, this is the amount we're offering?
So
What do you think?
that would be my first question. Is the consensus, and I would come back.
Yeah.
But if the consensus is first to present an override, because I don't feel it's. I mean, it's our duty. We could actually say, no, we're not doing it because we're the only ones who can put it on there. But I feel we have an obligation to put it to the voters and let them make the call. It's their money, and they're spending it. If they want to spend additional money, give us the authority to do that.
If they don't, they don't.
It's their choice. We can have 2 budget scenarios, the one that we have right now, and we'll go forward. Boom, and if the voters choose at the election to approve an override, then we can adjust the budget. And there's various scenarios how, because town meeting is before the election, the last override, it was reversed. The election passed, then he went to the town meeting, because just as the override passes, you have the extra levy, you still have to appropriate that money. So you can get the override to pass, in theory, you can go to a town meeting, and town meeting only appropriates some of the money. It's a funny thing.
I just don't think, I can't see the residents going for a high number. I just don't see it. I can't even see them in their own budgets, like an extra $1,000 a year on their payments. You know,
So,
I just can't see it.
so my first question would be, is there a consensus on the board to present an override opportunity to the residents at the polls, at the ballot?
I personally think we have to.
Mm.
It would be, I think, poor taste not to, but I think we have to. I just, I wouldn't plan on them.
No, I just,
Yeah.
we just need to go through the steps
Yeah.
to get to decide if we're going to do it. So yes, on an override, present to the ballot. Now,
I would echo Mr. May's concerns. I would feel we're remiss in our duties if we don't give them the opportunity and put it in front of them. It's their decision to make.
Mr. Thomas, who, I know, because he pays attention and
Yep.
he's at town meeting and stuff, and, we don't agree on things, but he made a very good point of, to asking us to, hey, give the residents the shot.
Absolutely.
Don't make the call, and say, no, we're not putting it on, because we don't want to do it. It's their money, and let's present them. Now, okay, yes, on the override. Now, is a consensus of the board to give them one number or several numbers, options? We can give them, we can put 6 questions in, options. It depends on what we do.
myself personally, Mr. Chair, I think we should give them more than one option.
I agree.
Consensus?
I think that in the meantime, we really need to scour it through and have each department. Even if they can drop it a little bit, that way we're not expecting so much, we can drop the amounts and have that fluctuation to present.
We
And
still
get it
have,
as low as we can.
we still have that,
I agree,
Yeah.
agree with that too.
So,
A tiered proposal, tiered approach, yes.
okay, and like I said, the ones that pass out, that I just passed out, let me just off the top of my head, that just. A multi-tiered approach, if you want a different amount, if you want to think about it, if you. Email me, the different options you want. I will get I'll email the assessors for, if they're different from this. You know, if you want to say 3, 5, 2 and 3, whatever you send, whatever
Now,
is the most.
I would like to bring back the conversation on the school about the 2 million.
So, on the 6th,
Sure, I can get that, I get what,
Yeah.
So,
again, this was just like I said, off the top of my head.
that's a good gauge.
And then if we choose an override, then we will have the month of April to present to the residents in different ways. We can put it on the website, TCTV. We could have a couple of meetings. I would be willing to, I'm sure you would, CT, whoever, and we can just can't cheerlead for it or against it, but we can say, this is the budget with the money we have right now. This is the levy limit, and boom. This is one override option. This is the tax rate, this is your tax bill. If we increase the levy limit by this much, the 2.5% increase when we do the recap sheet will equal this much money. And then you explain what. You have to show what the override is going to cover. Because the first year in an override, the money has to go to specific places. The year after, the pile just gets bigger. And that's, to me, that's the screwy part of it, but,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
just a couple comments. So the select board, not saying you have to or anything, but the select board can cheerlead an override if you feel you are in favor of one. You are policymakers, you can. I can't, and your employees can't, but you can. So just to make that clear. To Ms. Basso's point, regardless of whether, the board decides to put 1, 2, 3 million on the override, either version requires a certain level of cuts. So there's going to be. And if the board decides to do a multi-option approach, for every option you choose, there's a budget I will have to match to, plus an additional budget for if we get nothing. So whatever your options are, plus one. I think that was it.
Like I said, the 1, 2, 3, it's not. Send me, each individual options, and if the majority is like. Or a larger amount and only 2 tiers, 2 questions. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. I just wanted like an example to see, to give you all like.
Well, at some point, the budget book will they be able to see it, like if they have questions, residents, on why it's so big? Or is that not a thing we do until the end?
So once the board decides on a direction, we can begin explaining, depending on the options, we can begin explaining how it shakes out in the budget. So once I have a direction, and if I even get a leaning, I can at least start working on it. But once I have a direction, we can start advertising what it all means and putting it on the website. And these documents are, anything we discuss at a public meeting is a public document, but obviously this just shows the deficit and it doesn't show what override options would mean. So yeah, we would set up a page on the website. As Mr. Bennett mentioned, we would, maybe contact a local paper or something, TCTV. And ideally you would do learning sessions where, you know, you hold someone during the day, some at night, and people could come and ask questions about this. So some people like to learn in person and, you know, talk to the TA or the department heads or whoever. So that's normally how you sort of run an override issue.
In 2018, town administrator and the select board held an informational meeting here on the override. I was there. There were several residents that, because I raised the point, I said, instead of 473, I was in favor of $1 million override because I thought if you're gonna ask, go big. So it will cover 2 years. And there were a few residents that one looked at me and said, you know, Mr. Bennett, that's the first time I ever agreed with your, you know, with you. So it's, you know, we can assume that the people are gonna say no, but they might surprise us.
I have a question about, like, again, about the school one, like, it's $2 million. Are we gonna recommend it's gonna be 2 million? I mean, because by law, for net spending, we don't have to accept it being 2 million over what they asked, because it's way over our obligations. Just like cutting some stuff out of here, even if it's small or not, in departments, I feel like saying a full-blown 2 million recommendation for the school. I know they need money, but it seems like, you know, then, because he's also said that he's not gonna not come back next year for more, and then next year, and the next year, more and more. So if we're way over our net responsibilities, once you start going over it, it's very difficult to come back down on that number. Do you know what I'm saying? So we paid over $8 million, and now they want 10 million plus. So to say 10 million plus is okay, seems, I don't know, it doesn't seem very responsible on my role as a selectman. I mean, I may be wrong. It's just, maybe I just don't feel it. I feel like it should be something, you get the 8 million plus, you got 10 million, something in the middle. Just a thought. It's my thought.
Bear in mind, we don't have total control over their budget.
Oh, I
They are an
understand that.
outside entity. The DESI formulas change. This year, the change did not work to our benefit. That's part of the problem. The insurance costs, the retirement costs are way out of line.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw the increases in the fuel.
Yeah.
Everybody, even at home, nobody saw the increases in basic postage and a bunch of other things, you know. How do you plan for and predict for that? You really don't.
I just think that if we're all asking in schools, you know, they're gonna be like probably advocating for this for their end. And we're, you know, our town, but departments and stuff, you know, we're probably crossing their fingers for their end. I really think just to be responsible for both budgets, a little something should be cut off on each one. Because it shows an effort, plus having a little something cut off of each one, you know, whatever the number you go with is gonna give you, a, you know. I just feel. In my point, I don't know, maybe it's my budget savvy, we keep on cutting, but. I just feel like it's a lot to ask, and there's so many people struggling in our town. That I just would like to see something taken off both ends, you know. And not be, you know, not be so, like, I don't care if it's 100,000, 200, 10,000. It's something to, based on with the numbers that we have now on both ends. I just feel it's a lot to ask of people, and it's gonna questions on the floor, you know, did you? And I just don't, because I looked at I looked at 25, I looked at 26, and I do see some things that could have been cut. I mean, even though, you know, you may think it's nickel and diming, Mr. Ryan, but. Like I said, budget savvy, you know, having kids and a family. That little bit, if this override goes and I have to pay as a family extra money, it'd be nice to know that the town at least. You know, tried to live within their means and their budget, you know, didn't give an extra $100 to supplies when it could have went, but all right without it. And it's just a thought.
So. Yes, on an override and a tiered approach, so if you, come up, and I will say, I'll email you an example of a tiered approach at one house. How they the funds, town stuff is in the funds, another one funds, other stuff, it's just for the thought.
Yeah.
So that's the direction on budget. We will plan for the 20, for April 6th. We discuss an override, so we'll have two. We will eventually have to come up with two budget scenarios. We're gonna override the override and
Yeah, I mean, I could start, the only direction I've gotten so far, no, I'm not being fresh or anything, is that I already knew this, I do have to develop a budget that is no override. But I'll have to wait to hear from you. So are we going to, on April 6th, decide publicly at the meeting what the tiers are gonna be for the override? Because once I know that, then I can.
we will have to, because
Yes.
we have to get that to the town clerk.
Okay.
By that week, close of business that week. She has to have it, I emailed her and asked her, what's the drop dead date for the ballot question? It's April 13th.
Yeah, I can't do much, I can't do much until I know what those numbers are, but I'm happy to, I'm already partway through the doomsday budget, I'll call it. So,
I know you're on vacation next week, but if
Yeah.
the members can, get that to me, it would be Monday before I could get stuff. Such as what the impact would be. I mean, I have them for this, but depending on what you send me, so,
Mr.
I
Chair,
guess
I've got one more question.
if I have that by Monday, I can get this information that I have and then send it back to you. And like I said, on April 6th, unless we have another meeting that week to vote something fine. But I would be prepared on the 6th to.
Yeah, just, the only thing I wanted to ask the board before we went further. Was how does anybody feel about the town and the school, the money for the town and the school being in the same override? Or do we separate those?
I think it should be separated.
so may I please? I don't know whether this is good or bad, you decide, but if you separate them out, you are more likely to get the override for the school and not for the town. So we would be in the same boat. As far as some of those doomsday cuts that I mentioned. So all those people that were here on Monday, those were teachers.
Or,
And there was probably about 35 watching from home, I heard.
Yeah, that's teachers. There was also people.
yeah, and I mean, there is
Teachers.
not for nothing, but
Watching.
the point that's being made, I think, without being made is that. The teachers and the town employees can overwhelm a town meeting. But they rarely overrun a bill.
Yeah, they also have to be registered voters to sit on the
Yeah,
south
that's
side.
The point I was trying to make was that
We have
the
to.
teachers are very engaged and it'll engage the parents. And so parents have kids in school and they're very passionate about that stuff, and so they're more likely to vote.
This is a very different override for our town. We have clickers now. Well, we used to stand up and people stared at you.
And the example that I have, well, two examples that I have seen towns right now doing is. Our situation, they are presenting multi-tiered overrides. One that gives an amount will cover all the general fund cut, fund all that stuff, and partial for the school. The next one covers everything. And when you have a multi-tiered, whichever one gets the most votes is, that's where that money is gonna go to. This has been a multi-tiered question had been offered up in the past, And a lot of people, that confused everybody, just do one. But it was offered up by the then town council. And a lot of people looked at it. But it's, give us some options. Like I said, one that would get us out of the situation for 27 and maybe 28, and then one that would be a little longer term. Or based on best information and estimates that we have would cover us going out maybe 3 fiscal years. So. All right.
But we get a lot of money. I heard that just a couple of years ago.
Yes. So that's the direction we will head in for April 6th. When I get home, I will email them examples, just to try and help out. All right, the next item is the town meeting warrant.
So in your packets is updated draft of the town meeting warrants. This one is more complete. You'll notice that there is one section still missing. I just didn't put it in there because I sent stormwater management bylaw to town council early for review because it's very long. So I just wanted them to have extra time with that. But other than that, this is pretty much what your warrant's gonna look like. We can finalize it. Well, if this looks pretty good, I can send this to town council and you can have a final one ready to vote on April 6th, or you could vote what's technically a draft on April 6th and say, approved with, changes per Harrington and Heap Town Council. So a couple ways to do it. One change that Harrington and Heap suggested that I agree with, which I think will benefit us, especially this year, is that historically Templeton has put the actual budget number in the omnibus budget article and the school article. You don't actually have to do that. All a warrant is basically a warrant warning to people that, hey, these are the topics that are going to be discussed. It's the motion where you want to have, the dollar amounts in. And by doing it this way, you could finalize the warrant and continue working on the budget. So it buys you more time before town meeting to actually finalize your budget. So that you notice on an article, it's towards the end, 24 and 25 general fund, you won't see a dollar amount there. You won't see a dollar amount in Narragansett. Just because I had them and they seem rock solid, I did put them in other things. But that allows us more time and it's a way you can do it. And plus you guys have the town meeting advisory book. I forget what you guys call it. The book you do that.
Voters guide.
Voters guide, thank you. And we would have those numbers in that, so. Yeah. So if the board has any questions about any of the items.
I had that question that I had asked about, I think was it Article 14? The one about the select board not being on any other governmental board.
Yes, very.
Yeah, and I was just worried that if somebody was like, I don't know, special or whatever, and the MMA wanted them to be on the select board of the MMA, would that affect them? Because I have been at something where we had to vote for the members and they're from different towns and stuff.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if that line would affect it.
So I spoke to Mr. Bennett to make sure, because this was his suggestion
Yeah.
and to make sure what his desire in this was. And so we changed it. You can see the second bolded sentence. So members of the select board shall not serve on any other appointed capacity on any other town of Templeton board, commissioner, committee. So you could be appointed to the MRPC or an MMA group or whatever.
Oh.
So just for the backup, my reasoning for thinking of that article, the financial review by the Department of Revenue in 2009. That one of their recommendations was prohibit elected officials from holding any other position. So they recommended in 2009 to have no member elected or appointed. And then they repeated that in 2021 March. Prohibited elected officials from holding any other position, and they recommended that the town says the town has not drafted a standalone bylaw prohibiting elected officials from holding any other elected or appointed town positions. And then they point out to the chapter 59 article bylaw that restricts currently from board members in any other elected capacity. And then they mentioned that the advisory committee member from holding other elected, currently select board members can and do hold appointed positions. So we've asked the DOR to review our town government, how we operate, and like I said, in 2009 and 21, they consistently said get the selectmen off of these appointed committees, which some of them kind of conflict with our duties. You get on a board and a committee, you vote for stuff, and then you present it to this board that you sit on.
Yeah, it's hard.
You know, it's, to me, we're asking the DOR to give us recommendation. It's kind of like asking a lawyer for advice. He gives it to you, you pay for it, and then you go, nah. So, you know, why talk to them?
Like I said, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
if somebody was going, you know, the MMA or something, that they weren't locked out, like, cause we do have some members in our building that are high up on some of those organizations, so I just wanted to show the select board member, maybe probably not me, but somebody could do it.
No, it's just, it's been around a while, and like you said, that's been in two, like, 10 years, but, so I just figured it was time to ask town meeting, but not, and again, that's, you know, from the town meeting, but.
And then the senior center, you have like it yellowed, like, do we have an amount, do we need an amount for that?
So.
Number 9?
So I'm waiting for the deputy assessor to get me that number, and he is waiting on, that number is attached to,
I just wanted to say something, I don't know where it lands in this thing about the senior thing, that exemption. I just keep in mind that if if the 60-year-olds can actually do that and could get like $2,000. And there's a lot of 60 and up people, and that's a lot of money that, especially if we've had an override. And we're offering out to go work someplace and get some money, to get like $2,000 off your mortgage. It now seems like not the time to go so high and so freely.
well, so that's, but to finish answering that first question, so the deputy assessor is gonna get me that number when I think the Department of Revenue releases it. I think it might be based off the consumer price index, but trying to do this off memory, but that's why it's blank. Eventually there'll be a percent in there.
Cause like in 2 years, I would be able, and based on, as I asked, based on my situation, I would be a qualifying person if I wasn't on the select board. So that seems. I'm just not a fan. It seems like, I mean, we went from 500 to $2,000. You're looking at 500, and then I guess it has to be minimum wage, even though it didn't, the cuts didn't say that, but apparently it's like a state thing, it has to be minimum wage. It has to be a real job in the town, right? And then, it can't be just like, you know, dealing out bingo or something.
If, you mean the senior work off?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking
The
about.
senior work off, it's, this board, it's the first thing is to create the policy, and I've looked at policies from many different towns and how they do that. And it does not have to be just jobs that the town has. They volunteer to do certain tasks, and you have certain things like they could proofread the annual town report. They could do minutes. It's, again, it would be the policy that is created.
Then who would run, so would it be the seniors?
by this board. And I would, in many towns, select boards do this, they work with the council on the aging, because those are the people that directly meet and talk with the seniors and get the word out. I asked the accountant of how many people have seniors participated the last couple of years, and the amount that was totaled up, that was actually paid out, but they don't actually get a check.
Yeah.
But it was like 41, almost $4,200. And out of that $500 that they work on, before that has any effect on their real estate taxes, federal income tax gets deducted. There's not enough, they usually don't lose any tax. Social Security and Medicare gets deducted. The state retirement cost gets deducted. They can apply to the treasurer to get the refund on that. So after you take that out of that currently $500, if it's $400, your real estate tax bill is reduced by that much. And it has not been, it was
Yeah, it's overdue to be up.
$4,000. It's like
$277 an applicant.
chunk.
Yeah, they still have to fill it. You have to do like a job, right? You have to fill it out, like give your social and all that stuff so that the IRS knows you got the money.
And
Yeah.
there is currently over 800,000 in the overlay fund. If you had 100 seniors at $1,500,
Remember, 60-year-old
150 grand coming out of there. 5 years, that fund, the most it's taken out for abatements, work off, etc., is 117,000 to a low of 92,000. There is, and 2,000 is the max. Again, this board would decide if you get that 500 off the town meeting vote. So then this town board would set the policy. We could do 750, we could do
Okay.
1,000, we could do 1,500, we can do 2,000.
I just was checking how the number was getting set. It's just because might be doing override. And like I said, in 2 years, I could be 60 and I could put in for it. So there's many people like me that live in the town, that could apply and it could make a difference, that want a job.
Only so many get the job.
Right, that would be something that we would set to.
That's fixed.
I just wanted to make sure, I know there's a lot of money in there, but I want to make sure that it didn't like go fast, so
Yeah.
Yep,
it could last for a while.
It's in crafting the policy and
Yeah.
they're looking at some towns. They have set, the board through their policy has set like 20 or 25, they've set a number and they get 80 people. They have a lottery. So it's fair. So it's not like, well, hey, I know Tim, so I'll put him on you. They have a lottery when they have a lot of votes.
And then like, but who was gonna like, because they'll be reporting, like right now, I think it's being reported in the assessor's office on all that documents and who worked and whatever. But that would be something when we do our policy, who would we say is the reporting body to, takes care of it, because like, the manager in the building, she's only a part-timer, so that would be like extra tasks, like you have to think about any pressure on any employees, but that would be something we work in the policy.
Yes.
Yes, we.
Okay. Just
You have to
checking.
name the
How it
people
works,
and the
that's all.
assessors get the names and simplistic terms, they write the checks. But.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we were like, yeah, okay.
The trick is for James to find the 10,000 hours of work.
I ain't finding it.
Well,
Send it give it to this.
I just know that jobs are not, there's not a lot of them in the town. And departments, I guess because I did ask a little bit, and then they it's put out, it's coming up, does anybody have any work, any department? And apparently the seniors are one of the ones who don't send in if they have any work. So, in the senior center, but not everybody's gonna wanna work, even if you're a senior and you're getting senior work off, you might not wanna work in the senior center, you might wanna work in a different area.
yeah, we can set the policy.
Policy to
That's
do
been
all
one of
that,
the
okay, I just
pieces of
checked.
misinformation was, it only can be a town job. That's the only thing you can do, and that's Not true. Mr. Chair.
I have a question. I see in Article 3, deposits to capital stabilization fund. My question is, what about all the others that are in the financial management plan?
So-
I'm just wondering how we get there.
Okay, so because of just the way the agenda went, the next, I think it's the next agenda item, or I have, where is it on the agenda? It's the next agenda item, so we're and so in that sense, we're doing it backwards, but that's the next agenda item.
Thank you.
There are any more questions on?
I don't know. I'll look in. We've never figured it out. That's,
The warrant.
that's what I looked at. I had these notes on the other paperwork you gave before the fancy warrant came out. So I'm just double checking. I think you've answered most of my questions. Nobody else? Please, someone else.
We take these in order instead of hopscotching them.
Sure.
Article to article to article, because
Prerogative.
I see 2 Article 3s, one on page 2, one on page 3.
Okay,
That's true. I didn't notice that.
okay.
Just trying to keep you on toes.
No, it's all good. This is why we review.
Well, it has, it's gonna go to town council.
Yeah, I know. The first question I have on this, the Article 1 for the late bills, do we know when these were submitted?
What do you mean submitted?
I see 3 items here for late bills.
Hmm.
To see if we will vote to authorize payments.
Yeah.
Once we close out the books, as of, I believe, the 15th of June, when the books close, if the bills weren't in. How do we do that?
They have to.
July, you know,
They have to go to, exactly this, they have to go to town meeting for a vote, and it's a 9/10 vote to pay them.
So where will that money be coming out of?
So what?
The money for these bills? Are they gonna take it out of pay it out of the 26 budget?
So let's see, select board van pool, actually, let me see, so see, that's a good question, cause that 2,000 van pool, I don't know, we probably don't have $2,900 in the budget, but the other 2 budgets would, just be paid for out of FY 26, trying to remember what year we're in, 26 budget. Select board van pool though, I'll have to think about that one, but I don't know if there's room for that.
Do we still have any in the select board budget in the wage account left that can be transferred over
Yeah, that's what I have to look
for
into.
the hires that we didn't do? Okay. And then the.
this is where I always have a challenge with these late bills, because. It's incumbent on these vendors to get them to us on time.
No, I'm pretty sure they got lost in the shuffle. It wasn't the vendor's fault.
And then these small ones for the DPW, public services, public services, they would be putting it in there.
Yes, they would pay for it out of their FY 26 budget because it's small.
If town meeting votes to pay them out of the 26 budget, we would have until July 15th. I think. select board and the advisory committee can do end of the year transfers from department budget to these departments, so there'd be money there to pay them.
You know, so maybe we just do that with the van pool, just in the select board budget.
But we need town meeting vote to pay the 25.
And once we get the vote, we can put it through accounts payable. We have them, you know, they were discovered and they were past due.
I have another question. On Article 13. Tax title collection revolving fund?
Yeah.
Down, like the third line up in the bottom. It says for fiscal year 2027, the total authorized expenditures from this fund shall not exceed $23,000. Now I'm seeing that, but I haven't seen anything to fund it. So
So,
we're not doing that right now, correct? Is that the,
so recording fees, title exams, mailing, publishing, all that stuff goes into that fund in real, you know, in the fiscal year. So once this is established, those monies would go into that fund. And if we needed to, you know, spend that money on, you know, tax title stuff, we could spend up to 23,000. You're not going to have that, you know, in FY 27. But yeah, that's my understanding of how this works.
just the question again, is that the 25,000 that's in for tax takings now in the treasurer's budget?
No, this would, again, this would take these fees that happen, so recording and filing fees and title examinations, anything that we recoup from, tax title stuff, revenue relating to these, just those items would go into the revolving fund, and every year we'd approve the revolving. Yeah.
I'm clear, thank you.
And that 23,000 would be the spending limit out of that revolving fund, and if by chance a bunch of money went in there and the treasurer said, hey, I need to spend more, than this board would meet and approve the spending.
With advisory and all of it. You'd have to, all of the advisory would have to be a bit similar to the one I did for the rep. You know. We can address two. That's later.
Take these.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Article 6, CPA funding for the Bureau of Park Project. I understand what they're doing there, the Heroes Park with the subnote 1 or the footnote 1. We're skipping over two significant groups, the Persian Gulf War veterans, the Cold War veterans. But I do have a question. There was a monument purchased years ago. Nobody seems to know where it is, and we're going back 4 or 5 veteran services directors. I would like to know where that stone is at. It's a rather large piece. And the company it was purchased from up on the end of 202 at 2A in Athol is no longer there, but it had a sister company, and I don't know where that one is located. I've exhausted all the resources I had trying to track it down.
Tim, I went and tried to figure it all out too. I went to the accountant's office. I went to the DPW. I figured if they were closing, the company would have gave a shot to the DPW, say, come and get your thing. there was one rumor that said that, we said, no, we could have a place for it. I'm like, I didn't make any sense. If we paid for something, we'd go get it. And, but I couldn't find, the accountant at the time, when I asked, she couldn't find anything to say that we paid anything for it. She couldn't find anything in the records, and, the last two, folks that, were in the veteran services couldn't confirm with me either. I tried to find like anybody about the company, if I could find anybody. I worked really hard. I couldn't find anything, so I don't know where else to,
Yeah, I haven't given up trying to locate it, but
yeah.
I'm just, it's one of those questions that,
I just think it's weird if they printed it out, it was ready to go, that if they were closing down, that we wouldn't go on our property and like
Yep.
stored it somewhere. I don't know.
just a question.
I would love it.
Question on Article 22 and 23. What is this, the sum that we're asking residents for those? The tuition. And the transportation with the student.
Actually, so, I'm still waiting for that number. It's in your budget, specifically the sources and uses under Norfolk. That's where the school is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have a placeholder of 80. Because last year it was 74.8 and we somehow went over it. I tried to figure out why, but there's been transition over there and
Yeah.
yeah, but give us a number, that should be the number. So somehow it went over, so Narragansett, because it's supposed to come through Narragansett. They could send it to us, for some reason it goes from Norfolk to Narragansett. So Narragansett's trying to get us that number, so for now I have an $80,000 placeholder.
Do you know how long we have left? For that student,
No,
the funding, isn't this the third year?
This should be the third year.
I'm sure Dr. Cassavant knows that probably off the top of his head. I'll get that.
Oh, I did see something positive. One of the school districts, I think it was Quabbin, is looking into possibly getting one of those programs.
Be too late for us.
I know, but in the future, let's just all cross their fingers
Yeah.
that they would want to do it. It could be a lot closer for everybody.
We used to have one here. I just find it odd that Norfolk Aggie doesn't come and present.
Well, I didn't ask them, because it's just,
Well, yeah, but the 2 years prior, they didn't come either. That's kind of troublesome.
I'm sure, so they're super.
Yeah, they did one
One
time.
year.
Yeah, they did. Oh, I think it
Remember
was
the two people that were
Yeah.
here?
So they
the
had,
first, yes.
they had a recent change. The superintendent there has only been there, I don't know, a couple of years, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, because when I first reached out to them, it was the wrong person, and then I realized that guy wasn't there when there's a new one. He's very nice. I got talked to him on the phone for a little while.
And for 24, monetary value. I don't think whether you have enough funds.
So it's the general fund, that's what we were discussing. Yeah. That's this. Our budget. So like I mentioned earlier,
That one,
what?
I said that one.
So
Yeah, thanks.
like I was mentioning before, these numbers are purposely not in there because it gives us more time to set the budget. If we were to put the numbers in there early, then it's kind of set in stone. You can make certain changes, but locks us in.
I like to get a view.
Oh, is it in, I probably shouldn't be saying it. The town elected officials, the town clerk might have one in her budget. Possibly missing.
Leaving.
Well. Town clerk. Does she have,
Yeah, she's,
an official in her budget? That might be missing from your list of officials.
oh, the moderator?
Yeah, that's what I said. I probably shouldn't be saying it. Well, it might not be next year, I don't know.
I think that is missing, cause
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, I'm
let's
not
see.
seeing.
Yeah, I just copied last year. That's interesting. I wonder.
Yeah, it was taken out last year in the budget.
Oh, well, yeah, she does have
Put it
it,
back in.
cause I was doing that COLA thing. It's the reason why I know it's even in there. But like, I remember that's in there today. I think there is like $500.
Yeah.
For that, so, yeah, I can add that.
The cable one, Article 19. Have we had any ideas on that?
You mean the number?
Yeah.
That's part of our budget, so that's why it's blank. We need more time to
Okay.
know what we need.
These are the citizen petitions, which not our thing, not our dream. That's theirs. You get more of them? Mhm. Do we have to do the free cash usage one before we go, or did any kind of vote on the warrant?
Have to know, but probably would make sense to talk about the next agenda item. Come circle back to the warrant.
Okay, any further questions on?
No.
Good.
No, I'm good. Okay.
Also. So. All right, we can still do the down here. Town meeting warrant. Now, free cash usage, administrative.
Yeah, sure. So in your packets, I wrote you a memo. I'm asking you to consider allowing the expenditure of free cash for a number of items that we're gonna need for the budget, so. I wish the chart didn't print out weird like that, it's not like down my, but it's readable, legible. So you'll recall the mid-year special payment that we made on health insurance, so obviously that was unplanned, it was 91,000 and change. So that would be backfilled because the health insurance budget's gonna run out of money well before the end of the fiscal year because of that payment. The DPW contract retro, hopefully they sign the contract on their end, so I'm preparing for that, and with the accountant's help, we figured out what the retro is for the general fund. Sewer has its piece. And our piece to pay the FY 26 retro is 18,572. If snow and ice deficit, assuming I don't even want to say this out loud. As of right now, your snow and ice deficit is 275,110, and hopefully it'll stay that way. And then so then with the rest of the money, I was trying to honor your policy passed earlier in the year. So part of that policy was 5% to roll over into the next fiscal year, which is a good sound practice. The 27,984 is 5% of that whole 500 and something thousand. No, it's up there 559,673. And then we're not putting a lot of money into capital this year, so I just figured the rest of it could go into the capital stabilization fund. But obviously, it's your prerogative if you want to do something else with it. But the remainder is only 62,000. So I figured splitting it up further probably wouldn't be awesome. So I thought the capital stabilization fund would be a good place for that. You know, that's just a suggestion. Trying to honor your policy as best I could while also asking you for these things that we're gonna need.
I don't have a comment right at the moment.
Okay. This goes.
I don't have money either.
Ms. Basil? Mr. Pelton?
I'm just surprised Mr. May doesn't have a comment regarding free cash.
Yeah.
I'm kind of taken aback myself.
Your comment wouldn't be, let's say, productive. Gonna try and digest what I'm seeing here and not throw up.
My comment would be the snow and ice deficit is an example of how we have cut, or stayed level and paying it out of free cash every year rather than bumping it up over a few years more than what we did. It stayed level a few years and then it would go up 3,000, 4,000. But the history of snow and ice deficit shows that this shortfall is not that out of whack with the history of our snow and ice budget as far as what we have spent over the years. And it's an example of covering general fund expenses with free cash that since the audit of 17, when we had free cash spent, it has been on the decline, not really level and not going up. It has been going down for multiple reasons, and we become dependent on it, and we get this. That's less money we can put in our accounts that actually earn money. General stabilization, infrastructure stabilization, the capital stabilization. I will say, spending about 50% of our free cash on these three things and taking the rest into capital stabilization does accomplish one thing. It will build that fund up. And if we, next year, whatever we may have left over out of the budget, if we put more money into there, sooner rather than later, we can meet the goal. And then the stated reason for the capital stabilization was to buy stuff as close to pay as you go as we can. So I don't like not putting it in the others, but on the plus side, if there's anything for me personally to like on your thing to put it, the rest of it in that would be it. It would get our closest to following the policy of why we have a capital stabilization fund and not nickel and dime, but build it up.
No, I don't comment.
I know it's coming, it's just.
We all know.
No, I know, I was just a little shocked about some things, but, so if I'm looking at this correctly with the snow and ice, we're somewhere around $438,000 for the year for snow and ice.
Yeah, I do have that exact number. It's not on me.
So
but yes.
roughly around a $90,000, $80,000 increase over last year.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head, but yeah.
I think last year was 190,000 and then 160 something that we put in, so I think it was like 353 or something like that.
Yeah.
So $80,000 increase, and we're at 173 going into this year. It's like
To me, that would be a reason for a chunk of it when we go.
Well-
Or some way fund this in a more realistic manner.
yeah. And I know this is going to be just off topic for half a second here. But I think that's something that we want to think about with. I just lost it when I said that, Jesus Christ. With it was something to do with the school. And their money.
Talk about like excess and deficiency, that their version of free cash.
No, I'm sorry, it just left. It was there and then I had to explain myself and my brain just Took a note,
I'll
so,
come back to you.
yeah. Um. Yeah,
E&D,
no, it wasn't Andy, no, it was.
I do have a question, but I think it's more warranted than this subject, than free cash. It'd be about, the capital stuff, so all the money we put from free cash, that's what we use to go in here, so there would be no money for that bulletproof glass for the school. How would that work? It's our building, our responsibility, so I just really concerned about not having that for the
Which
liability.
school are we talking?
The Templeton Elementary School, the front door, they had asked for like 7,000 or something.
So what that was, it was the elementary school, as Ms. Graves pointed out. They have two doors when you walk in. Both of them are locked and controlled. But if someone is let through, the first door, either accidentally or, they let through because they think it's that person's supposed to be let through. At that point, they're essentially in the school because between those two safety doors is like this plastic, almost, I don't know if it slides, but it's kind of this plastic, almost like slider window. And you could kick that in, push it in and get into, then you're in the school.
It deters the idea of the man trap at the beginning of the door. Beginning of school, when you go in, like you
Yeah.
said, those two doors locked, that's a man trap. If this is secure, right now, this is not a secure, let's say, window to the office. So without that being secure, the man trap feature is negated.
So they still have security with that first door, but if someone was accidentally let in, then they're in the school essentially. So yeah, it sort of makes the two locked doors, that's safe.
I did remember my question.
Um,
Okay, my question was, when we're doing the override, we may want to, if we're doing multiple versions, we may want to put a version forward that would eliminate 9 teachers from the school choice account for the school at the same time, because that's their, long-term complaint about bringing in additional kids to Templeton and the need for that, because there's 9 teachers, I guess athletics and something else being funded by the school choice. So I just thought that would be an option for the school to get that out of there and get that problem resolved, because you said it would take about $1 million, so.
So I just want to, while we're on that, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I just want to clarify something. When Bob and I were sort of pontificating about the town side of the deficit, and we were talking about basically 1.5 because 2 million is theirs. But what we have to remember is the school can't cut 2 million. That's their whole above request. So it's really, 1.5 wouldn't just be ours. We have to figure out how the rest of that goes. Unless someone disagrees with me, I don't think they can cut 2 million because that's their whole increase.
Then it goes right back to, it will be over our town's legal obligation to do it. And dramatically over our legal obligation. And I could have sworn someone says that once you go up, you really don't come back down from that number. And we've never, we've always gone over, we've never stated what our response, we've always given more. 1 year we gave a lot more. That we probably, that's a different conversation, but I just. It seemed to work when we took a little. We'll just say a little, or it could be considered to them a lot. But it just seems a lot over our responsibility, a $2 million, whereas last year in this room, everybody said that the school was $1 million. And we went from $1 million now to 2 million. And they said 2 million would be down the road in a few years. But it apparently came this year, which is interesting to me. But again, it goes back to, like I said, I just feel like, you know, both our budget and their budget should have some taken off of it. It shouldn't be a full blown go. With the override.
So on the free cash usage. What's our voting policy?
Um, But James, could you confirm that these numbers here add up to your 559, 673?
Except for, one number that's in this budget, the 15% that I was allowed to use on like operating capital, that pays for most of a truck for Bob Sosa. For DPW, I should say. It's not his personal truck, but public services. So that's stated in my memo. So that's 83,950. That's in here. So that's not in this. But the rollover, I did take that from the total. So that 27 is from the total 5 something, not, you know, not minus the 83.
Yeah.
So we were getting a truck. And again. The glass in the school, or the windows in this building, or the doghouse.
Or cap stabilization.
But we're getting a truck. I'm just not a fan of getting a truck. No offense to Bob, I'm sure he needs a truck, but I feel like the heating system was very taxed in this building on the very cold days. And a lot of it was due to the fact that these windows need to start to be replaced. And otherwise, it's gonna be very pricey when the heating system goes, because then you're gonna have to pay for a heating system, but hey, that's just my, you know.
We've got a secondary concern with windows in this building too. It's part of our green communities. We need to finish this project or that green community spot. We've already been warned by MRPC about that. We cannot kick that can further down the road. We've let this one ride a little too far. We want to screw it up, let the windows go.
Yeah. Something like that.
So we, all set with the free cash thing.
I'm with everything except the truck.
You could, if the board wanted, you, instead of putting all of that 62 in the capital stabilization, you could take some of that out and pay for some of the things you just mentioned. Because you do have, you know, the capital improvement committee, I gave you, I think, over 300,000 in items they felt needed to be done this fiscal year, and the only thing we're doing is a cruiser and a truck. And the, you know, and the cruiser's only because the, you know, based on the board's memory or whatever of the meals tax, that's what that should be used on, and the meals tax right now basically equals one police cruiser. So that's why the cruiser's in there, and I didn't want you to fall too far behind on vehicles, because you're kind of up to date. You got some old vehicles, but you're doing okay. So I don't want you to fall too behind. It may sound like it's not, you know, fun or something, or interesting or whatever, but it is needed, and I'm worried we're gonna start falling behind. Because well, I guess it wasn't long ago that Public Works' fleet was in poor condition, and so now you're doing okay. So I don't want you to fall too far behind. Bob had 3 vehicles. This is the cheaper of the 3. The other 2 were very expensive, and we were thinking about even financing those, but that also was too much money.
If we're gonna buy a truck, there's a truck going down the road.
Yeah.
Not buying a truck and keeping everything we have. That defeats the purpose of.
I'm not buying a truck.
If you're behind a truck and we're taxing our heating system and not complying to the wind, to try to pay to replace somebody's windows or protect our responsibility on the elementary school.
Or the ability to override.
Or asking taxpayers to pay extra on our taxpayers bills, we can't afford our bills. Yeah, we're living without our means. I don't think we should be buying new trucks or new cruisers. We're not in a financial predicament to be able to do that.
And if I may add, I know it's probably not time, but, I think we should examine the idea of spending any money on any capital. If we're so far in the hole, and I'm including the cruiser from Mealstat. Because right now, if I'm not mistaken, we have 6 cruisers, we're rotating 5 of them, and one of them is solely the chief's vehicle. That has 24,000 miles on it, others I know have 133, but, you know, the one we have at, the DPW at 133,000 that we're wholesaling, so, or that we're surplusing at some point. You know, it's
We're good with that one.
just a concern across the board.
I believe the way the chief does it is every 3 years he replaces a cruiser and then they go down the line. So I don't know if he
Supposed to be one every 6 years.
I thought it was 3.
6.
But I'm sure they start with the ARPA funds.
That's why they have 6.
No, you know,
Just one a year,
Oh, okay.
one in, one out.
Well, so I wouldn't get off that schedule. 6 years is old for a cruiser. They run all day.
I'm sorry.
No, it is. I'm sorry, but it is.
So
They don't
for-
they don't get a
for
ton of
engine
miles,
time,
but they're on
yeah.
all day. And you don't want your officer to have to go to a call and the car doesn't work. So
I mean, I do agree that this, if our budget is this, that buying vehicles like this, again, is, what's that say to the residents, you know, what? I don't feel it's the time to buy, I do feel like the glass at the building that's our responsibility, which is like, what, $7,000 or something, is an investment that we should be making, and I'm probably pretty sure that the residents that have children in that school would probably agree, or grandchildren.
And I have 4 children in that school, and I agree, there should be more protection, absolutely. I think the police department, we're completely getting off topic here, but the police department
That's pretty bad.
has very nice vehicles that are reliable and they maintain them. And with the proper maintenance, vehicles aren't going anywhere, so there's no reason to have to buy another one.
or instead of putting money
And
in,
instead of rolling your eyes, Mr. Ryan, excuse me, instead of rolling your eyes when people are talking to you, you just stand there or sit there and listen.
if you don't replace your vehicles, you're going to get behind and you're going to need to pay more in future years. And no, it's not how police vehicles work.
Any different words. So
And if you have money to put into a savings account, why are we putting money into a capital stabilization account when you have all of these capital needs? You have 62,000 right there that you can spend on these projects you're talking. I agree with you. So take that 62,000.
why are we asking residents for an override? If we have 62,000 that we just. We have money that we can just throw away, obviously. So why are we asking the residents for an override?
It's free cash. You're not supposed to use it on operating expense. Because free cash isn't guaranteed. It's one-time revenue sources.
It's different ways to allocate it to get things done that you need to get done.
Nothing, we're using $91,996 and $18,572,000 for ongoing expenses,
Yeah,
so. You know, but I do agree that we have 62,000 in capital stabilization. We have more money than that in capital stabilization. And if we choose to do the window, we can do the window. Out of capital stabilization. If, you know, we
Yeah.
so choose. And I don't think that's a bad option. But I'm willing to go with all this stuff. We can go with all this stuff on the wild, you know, override number or whatever on the thing, but, you know, just really concerned with the taxpayer coming back with a no
Yeah.
and us being out in the wind.
We can- I don't think it's in this book. I don't have the capital stuff of the. I know it's on seven, but I feel like it's a little bit, I don't think it was a round number.
What is that, 62,000 capital stabilization. Yeah. I don't think we spent anything. I don't believe we did.
I don't think we did either, no.
And so there might be some, no, that won't be for the next, hopefully for the see the quarterly. But,
Which was this one. June.
So. We're good with free cash. In. Another session on the free cash. All right. Next item would be the animal control.
So what are we doing with that? We not approving it? I don't know. What's my direction?
For what?
Free cash memo.
It's a free cash. For those,
Because they affect the warrant and, I need to know what to do on health insurance and the union contract and snow and ice.
Is there a way for us to do like the 7,000 out of an account or or lowering it
Yeah, subtract it from,
061?
subtract it from the capital stabilization.
But I just don't have the exact number for the window. So I don't know what the number would be.
So
We already still have like 60,000 in the account.
Number would change to 55,061. Could vote that change.
It is around 7,000.
That was a capital request, yeah, so 7,000.
You never know, sometimes those change. Sorry, not really what we voted for, or free cap.
I'm on the union contract. We didn't budget that last year.
You want to vote for article, for use free cash to fund article two,
Sorry, what?
for article two, is that what you're? Use of free cash.
I think that's where it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Article two.
So this, my memo affects, Article 2. Settlement, snow and ice health insurance. I mean, if the board isn't sure about the capital stabilization and the rollover, you could just vote to exclude those. But snow and ice is snow and ice, and health insurance budget's gonna run out. We knew that, made that payment earlier this year. And now we built the
Yeah, so article two,
contract.
for article two, you're looking to use 385, 678 of free cash.
I believe so. That's what it says, yeah.
Yeah, 678 is what it says, 385, 678.
Yep, that's the settlement, snow and ice, health insurance.
Three items.
Yeah. So if you want to think about the rest, you could do that.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amount of I make an amendment? How do I make a motion to approve that?
To approve the use of the free cash.
Or to make the amendment, right?
Do you want to just, you could just approve the usage of those three items.
Yeah. And we should talk about the number of the rollover and the capital stabilization. So to approve the health insurance, the union contract and the snow and ice.
385,670.
I just,
Yeah, good.
so, for the motion to approve the use of that money for, I mean, free cash for,
Second.
Sebastian, made. Second.
Sorry. You were still on another issue.
I know you was at, so I didn't. Motion made, seconded. The approve the use of free cash presented out. Question. On the motion, how would you vote, Mr. May?
Originally, yes.
Ms. Graves?
Yeah.
Ms. Basso?
Yes.
Mr. Phil?
Yes.
Ms. Bennett, yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
James, do we have, off the top of your head, do you know if we have any capital article in here?
Yeah, it's, yeah, 83,000 for, if you go to, if there's a lot, there's a section called, on the source and uses called capital and debt. There's a police vehicle, a sewer pickup truck, and DPW small utility truck, and the assessor evaluate.
Excuse me, I meant on the warrant.
Yeah, what number on the warrant do you
Do we
have?
have a
this?
capital item on the warrant?
No, that would be in the, this stuff would be in the omnibus budget. Would you want the,
Well, I was just trying to figure out a way that we could get that $7,000 off of the cap stabilization. To pay for the window. You know, and I just thought we might be able to throw it onto what we, if there was another capital item anywhere. We could just attach it to that, but since we don't have one.
I'm a little confused because usually with a capital like the truck, it would be listed somewhere in the warrant.
Yep.
For free cash, that's traditionally what we do on our
yeah, that's a good point, because that would be, the 83 would be free cash appropriation. So yeah, that should be a separate article. We'll have to add that to us.
Then maybe we could just add that $7,000 window to that. And put $55,000 into the cap stabilization. If that 7,000 is actually the number. I do think that's a legit cause myself.
Yeah.
Kills the building.
Yeah. And, we could actually give a new 20s. Those could be if the school's right there at 25, maybe they could be 26 and remove all the citizens to the number.
So now are we at the ACO?
Well, does the board want me to add an article for the truck and the school windows and then put the rest into the capital stabilization? Do you want any rollover? I mean, you should probably leave at least 1% or something for rollover. I don't think you want it drained free cash to zero.
It would be 55,061,
Yeah.
unless the thing's more than 7,000, then it would lower that number. And then the rollover would still be 27,984.
Okay, is that what you want to do?
That's what I was
That's,
thinking.
yeah.
All right, I'll do that. I'll make those changes in the warrant.
We need a motion for you.
I mean, I'll just do it and, sounds like I'll send this, updated version to Harrington and Heap tomorrow, and then I'll have it ready for you for final approval on the 6th. Truckers,
If that's okay with everybody else.
just.
takes care of free cash stuff. So now we can move on to the next item is animal control and this agreement with Washington.
So in your packets, the agreement, the board wanted to know what the costs, broke down to and what it would look like in coming years. There was questions about, how they handle, after hours calls. So there's the Winchton Police Department's, I guess you call them regs are in there as well. I created a chart for you that shows, estimating FY 26 isn't over, but estimating what it would be based off of prior years, and then 27, 28, 29 are, some numbers are estimated, like I put in an escalator for electricity, and I also put in an escalator for their expenses. And our monthly, so it shows the year, our yearly responsibility goes up, based on what Winchendon's proposing. And so as far as I can tell, each year, we are getting a slight, for one thing, they're paying for half of it, right? So if we, got rid of it, we'd have to, take on like 40 grand. But each year, we seem to be paying a little less than what they're paying. And we don't have the headache of managing the employees. So I opened up the questions.
Mr. Chair, if I may. Could you point out to me where the expenses for the truck are in here?
Expenses for the truck. Well, I think,
Truck and its insurance and its.
so I think that'd be the maintenance.
Well, maintenance is different than the expenses for the truck, because the truck was, I think, $35,000.
What to buy?
Yeah,
Well, so where it says capital, I divide what I estimated the cost of the truck out over 15 years or something. And so each year there's that dollar amount of 4,667.
yeah, that probably should be closer to 5 years, because we have the acceptable as the approval of the Winchton police officer or his designee. And I don't think that's gonna last 15 years. I'm, just throwing it out there. We got on all Bob's trucks, we got 10-year expirations. If we appreciate things for what, 7 years? Yeah, I'm just curious.
It doesn't get as much miles as like
That's how.
on all the time, like a cruiser or something. So I don't know. Change it if you
I've
have.
seen it in range, I've seen it in bombing 85 miles an hour down Route 2. I mean, if it gets,
Yeah, you don't a lot of miles.
All right, so we want me to change it to, you want to change it to 5 years? I mean, we replaced the cruisers at 6 years, it sounds like, so I think less than 6 years is probably not appropriate, doesn't it?
Right. I'd go 10 even, but six would be what we do with our cruises.
Yeah, I can't adjust that now on the fly because I forget what I put in there for.
Okay,
I forget if it was 15, and so it's that times 15. I don't know. I could try and do some math now, but
gotcha.
I guess it'd probably be too difficult to do this all right now. But anyway, to run it through the spreadsheet. Yeah, good.
So this says that,
7.
they pay, 40,013 cents.
$40,013. Yeah.
And we have the money out of the police department under services, $21,500. Last year was $21,000. That's what pays for some of this. I couldn't find it any other place in the budget book.
Yeah, I think it's in the police department's budget. It's the animal control line item.
And that's the one that pays for the actual cost of, like, what is it, $14.50 a month?
Yeah, it's in there.
12 months, so it's like 17.4, I think.
Yeah, monthly, we owe them a certain amount, and there's probably money in there for. That bills and stuff probably comes out of there, and maintenance probably in Bob's budget, maybe, I don't know.
I couldn't find it in the BVAs, I couldn't find when it comes out, I could find, like when, an animal goes to the animal hospital. But I couldn't find where our payment was coming from. I looked, I couldn't, there was no line item that stood out to me and said, this is it.
Yeah.
For that $21,000
Right.
line, so I just can't figure out how we're paying that line. And then, yeah, we pay all the maintenance right now, because Bob said that, no, they're not paying. We pay all the maintenance on the vehicle. He said, we're just talking about the vehicle. And he thinks the registration, to register the truck might be coming out of the police, department. Cause he's not doing it, so somebody's sicker in it, so it must be our police department that's doing it under their budget.
So I have electricity, maintenance, vet bills. Estimated in there based off of.
Well, the water and sewer is the same as the DPW building.
Correct, so I
He
can't,
said, and then he said, we have 2 electricals for the building, one's for the trailer and one's for the building, so we get 2 bills that we pay on that. I asked him, cause they have we have a washer and dryer in there that runs. I asked him about, the bathroom, 'cause I thought there used to be a bathroom in there, he said no bathroom, the porta potty. Now, I've heard that maybe someone's donating the potty, and then he says possibly they're paying for the porta potty. But when I took a visit there, on the fall, the officer, animal control officer told me that they were getting it donated. The oil changes, that we're taking care of all that stuff. Yeah.
That's in the contract. Thanks.
$1 million in liability insurance for.
Yeah, we're carrying the insurance for it. I know in there, I went online and looked at the town of Winchendon. I found it fascinating how they do their little stuff online for budgets. It said, was it last year? Or one of them, it said that they had gotten, they had a 5,000 for the coordinator they were paying, and it said that they were paying, where did it break down? It said that they were paying, the officer, they're part-time, and there's usually 3 of them. One something like in 2024, I know that one of them, it says it online, where you like ask government who got paid what. One of them was like 21,000, someone was like 17,000, and another one was like 10,000 or something like that. That they got paid by Winchendon, and it showed that, so it basically broke down to, which one is this one? FY25, it said that they paid $59,600 on top of the what is it called? The $5,000. That's what they paid them. It's right. And that's what they also had a fancy thing on how they budget, but it was weird because this fancy thing that they have, in 2026, it doesn't show animal control, but all the other years it shows those numbers like 62,300. And then the other one's 5936 for 2024. But on this one, this design one that they had, there's no mention of the animal control officer anymore listed on this for fiscal year 2026, which is the current one we're in. I thought that was kind of strange. I do know that they go around and they sell like little dogs, and they go to fairs, and on Facebook, Winchendon gave a reward to the animal control officer because she raised that Touch a Truck, which is in Baldwinville, in Gilman Waite, $3,000. But I'm not sure how they get the money and what they spend, like, it said that they spent it on the needs of the animal, but it didn't really. There's nothing online for which I could track on how they spent that $3,000.
That must be the miscellaneous revenue they have right up here for $3,000.
Oh, maybe. Could be,
Right here.
oh, okay. I must have missed it.
Have it all the way down.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just trying to, because I know that they sold little dogs and they sold sweatshirts and stuff. So that was one event, but there were other things they sold. So I don't know about that. I just know what I could see online. These are just facts. These are either facts or details that you can find online about it. I think it's helpful information to understand when you're looking at the contract. What it is we're looking at.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Hay.
Getting beyond the dollars and cents here, looking over at the emergency dispatch procedures. The way it reads to me, and I might be interpreting it incorrectly, but it looks like basically that, under this agreement, from 7:00 PM to 7:00 AM, the first call for all ACO services in an emergency manner are to our police dispatch.
So
And
there's an amendment at the back of the contract that says, the hours were changed from 7 to 5. Yeah.
okay, so then 5 to
Yeah.
7, that, because, you know, each one of these says contact ACO if ACO is not on duty, dispatch cruiser to verify injured animals location, and then contact ACO. The next one is contact ACO, dispatch cruiser to verify vicious animals, blah, blah, blah. They're all basically the same. It's, you know, after hours, contact the police department, and once they verify it, contact ACO. So it sounds to me like our police are just being used to verify what the citizens are reporting. Which, I don't know. I have mixed thoughts on that.
I mean, it might be done that way because the way the contract works is after hours, when they get called in, whatever town they're responding to has to pay for it. So I imagine it's a cost control measure because the police are already on duty.
But that again, that adds to our cost. You know,
What do you mean?
well, because we're sending out cruises for every one of these, you know, between 5 PM and 7 AM. We're required to send out a cruiser to verify and then report to ACO,
Well, they're already on duty though.
but they're not busy doing dog duty.
Well, I mean, I'm sure if they had a human emergency, they'd prioritize that.
Yeah.
Just guessing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you know, it's time spent. But all of those, that was just my comment.
So if you look at that email that that was sent to all of us, and I think you can just printing it out, but it's just kind of like a reminder of what happened last year. And if there's an incident, ACO was called, nobody responded until 2 hours after their dispatch was called. You know, and that's an ongoing issue that the residents have been having. This is only one incident, you know, that somebody actually emailed all of us, let us know.
I don't remember seeing that.
It was before you got here.
I could research it and see what happened.
It wasn't that long ago, we had one of our residents have to keep the dog, was told to keep the dog in their garage. Cause there's nobody, I've seen that a couple of times when people have been told that they called and they said, can you just keep the dog somewhere until someone comes and gets it? You know, and these are people that I've known in the community that, you know, I think it happened based on what they said. I personally heard from various different residents that they're not been happy with the service. That's why I wanted to see the call logs. they feel like it's one-sided on the Winchendon side versus the Templeton side. I asked when I went and visited, because I wanted to, you know, I hadn't seen a building in years and years until my kids were little. And, I had asked the officer about, back in the day, we used to have a lot of volunteers that came and, you know, walked the dogs that were in there. And she said that, because they're under Winchendon, that they didn't want them to let any volunteers of Templeton to do that, because I don't know if it was just Templeton, but she did say Templeton at the time of the conversation, because it's a liability. And I said, that's what you know, we have forms, they can fill out a liability form. And we have a lot of generous people that used to very much enjoy that task of helping walk the dogs. I did point out that we had a work program in the town, that we talked about earlier. And I said that would be some great jobs for them to help out there. And she said, I don't think the Winchendon would allow it. And I said, well, could you check on it? I did mention it I went into the building afterwards and talked to Bob and mentioned it to him. At the time I don't remember what it was. I don't know if it was the heater, the air conditioner, but there was something we were paying to have something fixed in the building. And obviously it was gonna be on our dime to fix it, cause she had called and said that I was over there and she asked about the item being fixed. The building hadn't been painted in a while, and I said, well, that would be a good project that somebody could do as a job to paint the building, weed it and stuff like that. I never got to see inside the trailer. They said the animal officer said I really didn't want to see it because it's like retro and they use it for mostly storage. And I asked about the quarantine animals, and she said, yeah, we will put them in there. I don't know if they do. I mean, back in the day, if you had like a quarantine animal, they would put it in that building and then they would cover it so that, because it gets agitated to see other animals in commotion. That was what we used to do because we didn't have a trailer. And then I asked about the dogs that were there. They were outside in the kennel, and I asked if anybody comes at night to bring them in, closes the door. And she said not all the time. And that concerned me because back in a long time ago, one of the local kennels had that kind of set up and an animal was taken from it. So it just reminded me about it. I was surprised that the shutdown doors and shut down at night and the animals aren't secure inside the building in the evening hours.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So if there are like this or dates, times, incidents, I can research stuff and get questions answered. Without that, I don't know how it's hearsay, and I don't know how that helps us sort of decide if this is all right or not. But I've been to the kennels. I've seen the dogs outside, and I've seen when it gets cold, they get put inside. So I don't really know about some of that stuff. And then I did get a copy of the call logs, but call logs aren't going to show you what isn't being done. And when I look at the call logs, there's, plenty of calls for Templeton and Winchendon. So I would need to, know particular incidents to ask about. Because if they aren't doing a good job, we need to know about it. But, I need some data to go on.
There's been also the police department, around midnight, because the dogs were out barking, just in the neighborhood. And there's been multiple complaints here at town hall of the same thing, the dogs barking. When they have dogs there, they don't take care of it.
Well,
I don't know I don't know if that's true or not. If someone sends me that, okay, but you're not giving me any dates, time, I'm happy to research it for you, Lisa, but everyone's kind of saying stuff and no one's giving me anything to research.
It's there that if you look for it, I can even send you some stuff when I get home.
Yeah, I'm happy. If they're not doing a good job, we should deal with it. But so far, the ones that have given me anything to go off of.
First meeting about this where we've all actually had a chance to talk about it, so.
But it sounds like you've known about these sort of complaints. If a complaint comes to you, send it to me. Don't wait for like once every 3 years when we're reviewing
Okay.
that.
He was moving on. So I did a little research, and so Phillipston they have an on-call ACO, and the salary for him is $6,365 annually. Petersham, I can only get a roundabout number. Their on-call is 5,000, between 5,000 and 7,500 annually. That's for one on-call. Doing on-call, you wouldn't have to provide the insurance or the retirement. Athol, they pay $16 an hour for their ACO. It turns out to be about $30,000 annually. That's for one. Royalston has an on-call that's between 5,500 and 7,000. So I think if we look into not renewing this contract, we'd have a lot of benefits, saving money, actually. We don't have to hire somebody on full-time. The course, there's a course to become a certified animal control officer, and it's from the Animal Control Officers Association of Massachusetts, and it's a 5-day course. It costs $700. That's it. They do it right at the Boylston Municipal Police Academy. As far as being an animal inspector, once somebody's appointed to be an animal inspector, it's 90 days before they get their training. And they get that through the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources. And then there's annual meetings that are free. And then after, in not having a municipal agreement, intermunicipal agreement with Winchendon, we would be eligible for grants. Excuse me, the pet plate grants and the spay and neuter, and there's another one called the Mass Animal Fund. And there's other benefits too, like well, the fees, citations that might be written, dog licensing, all that revenue will be kept into town instead of having to split it with Winchendon. As of right now, we're paying for. Are we paying for the animal inspector fee as well?
I'd have to look through the
Yeah.
contract.
Right now, we're paying Winchendon back $19,200 anyways, and that would be more than enough to cover 2 part-time or on-call rather ACOs.
So they have, to be clear, they have 3 on-call ACOs. They're not benefited or full-time, and they make between $16 and I think $18 an hour. And based on that hourly rate, they're having trouble keeping them. So they've had the only one who's been around is Tompkins, been around for like 5 years. The other 2 are been, that's, so just to be clear on that, that's, so we would be picking up most of the cost that Winchendon is paying for.
So a couple of concerns I have outside of the dollars with this agreement. That's currently stated, it's on page 2. The bottom of the page on the boarding fees. Currently, it says these boarding fees are not required to be turned over to the town of Templeton. Since we maintain the kennel, I believe that should be changed. The boarding fees shall be turned over to the town of Templeton.
Okay, so that revenue is, in that thing, that the chart that I had, so I mean, that would essentially increase their numbers and lower ours. So, I know Bob wants me to change the vehicle, but as you see,
I thought you just said that was from the fundraiser. They did the $3,000 from the fundraiser.
that's what they were talking about. From what I was told, this is all the revenue that they collected in fiscal 25. So that's why we're.
Not correct. I have a picture with her at a town meeting.
I mean, what year was that?
It was just recently. She was working. She doesn't work with them anymore.
So I think this is 25's number, not, so if this happened recently, that would have been 26. So if they did some one-off thing that got $3,000, okay, they might take it.
This picture was posted on the town of Winchendon's Police Department on October 16th, 2025.
So that's FY 26.
Yep, and it says right here, the animal control officer raised $3,000 at the annual event that the sale of the raffle tickets, stuffed animals, t-shirts, blankets, sweatshirts, and more. And this was at the Touch a Truck, which was in Templeton and Baldwinville. And they just asked the public on the Facebook account, what stuffy would you like which dog breed would you like us to do? I know that they sold sweatshirts during Christmas time, and different other gear. That's why I had asked the question, like where, like you had said it was on the sheet, but I wasn't really understanding what I was looking at. I was also, sorry, all those distracted today. But, yeah. And I mean, there are monetary donations that are being given to the, animal shelter, which has Templeton's name on it, and it goes to Winchendon. And I mean, granted, most of the time people just leave outside our, animal shelter building. They'll leave blankets and foods and things outside of it. Sometimes it can sit there a little bit longer if they don't have a dog in custody in the building, to come and get it. But I do know that, we do get other donations that come through on our doorstep. And I'm sure that they do on there and in Winchendon. This was the event that they had where they raised the $3,000, which was on September 27th, 2025 at Gilman Wakefield.
My other concern outside of dollars, specific dollar amounts, again, is on page 2. Under item K, it begins with the town of Templeton will provide a motor vehicle, keep saying registered and insured. And then down on the last sentence, it says the adequacy of the vehicle shall be subject to the determination of the Winchendon Police Chief or his designee. If we're buying the vehicle and we're charged with maintaining it, etc., and having to replace it, the adequacy of the vehicle should be determined and should be up to Templeton, not another town telling us what vehicle we have to buy. I just concur.
I agree.
If we're gonna keep this, those are a couple of changes that, I mean, we're maintaining the kennel, the dogs are kept here. Any of the fees should be turned over to the town of Templeton. Consider local receipts that goes towards paying for the heat, lights, water, sewer, etc.
In the BVAs in our town, under the police department, under, services, the $21,000. It does, like I said, it does say that the animals are going to the vets and stuff like that. That's all I could find. I couldn't find anything else other than that in the book. But we are definitely paying some of the cost for an injured animal. I have and I mean, one was like, where I did print it out. One was like, something like $500. One of the visits, they were pretty, substantial visits that we're paying. So, and I just, like I said, like, this was the Gardner Animal Care, $470. And that was it's in our budget book. So, and then there's a boarding fee, but we didn't get it.
It does say in here too that the oil changes and services should be done by Winchendon, but I mean, if Bob says it's doing them. Know how that.
I mean,
Yeah,
but do we
that's
want
good.
someone doing our oil changes that are not from our town?
I
On a
don't know, I
vehicle
don't know
that
if
we
that's true.
own?
So I didn't think that was true. Did someone ask Bob and he said that they are doing oil changes?
Yes, Bob said he was. He wants to make sure it's done, and he said that, yeah, he's the one he did it. I have an email from him. I asked him today.
They mentioned it should be paying for that.
Well, under the section K here that Jeff just read. It said the, town of Winchendon's obligation for the vehicle shall be limited to supplying fuel and doing the oil change services, doesn't say maintenance. So, just
Yeah, there's a line item, I think, in the budget I provided you that shows maintenance that we do.
Yeah.
But I guess apparently that might include oil changes, so.
The other point that I just want to bring up to relate to what Lisa was saying here earlier. If you look under the emergency and non-emergency procedures in this packet here, it explains the barking dogs are always the problem of the police department. Not the ACO.
Oh, but it is when they're at the ACO facility, is what.
Well, yeah, at the ACO facility, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah, then one of our other board members on one of our other town boards lives right near the DPW. And he was one of the people that came forward, one day when I was here. I don't know about a police or knows them or not, but he said, what are you gonna do about these dogs? They're barking like crazy out there at night and it's really late. And I said, they are, and that's why I screwed it in to see what was going on in the building and what the building looked like. And that's when I asked about the dogs and the shutdown. That's why I went to see what was going on down there. And she just happened to be there. And I know when I went, because I went right after I went to the Narragansett school opening thing.
excuse me, James. You do have my email for my concerns regarding the ACO contract. I sent that to you like,
It was a while ago, yeah.
yeah, like 3 weeks ago or something. I just wanted to clarify that you had those because there's, you know, some of the things that we talked about here were referenced there too, so.
I mean, when you're done, I eventually need a consensus on what you want me to do.
So another thing too would be, if we didn't go through this contract and we decided to go ahead and hire our own, would be, like the response time. Getting somebody there. So say there's an incident going on. Cows are loose. Like what happened in that email. You know, somebody would be able to be there. It would be a matter of minutes instead of waiting for them to come all the way from Winchendon.
Well, they come from home. I don't know if they all do. Well, you could hire someone in Winchendon.
They are from Winchendon.
No, I'm saying if we hired someone to work just for us, they could live anywhere.
But they still switch off the rotation and there'll still be, at some nights, it'll be in Winchendon. That's why I had wanted to see a call, like a sample call, like to see if two, like, I don't know what the odds are, but if 2 phone calls came in, one from Templeton and one from Winchendon, where are we going?
It's,
Are we evaluating the situation, what's more crucial than the other, or are we going based on, you know? I would like us to, I mean, I experienced when my kids were little, they went down there and helped out their aunt who volunteered time down there. I would like to see us have our own, responsibilities with, having the animal control officer and our own, and not be in a regional contract. I've seen enough and heard enough from residents, and I think that many residents would feel the same way, but I'm just one. And I don't think it's, I mean, the budget's the budget, and I don't think it's gonna break up, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000. To make sure that the animals and the residents in our town are comfortable with the situation. And
You said there's no reason why, you know, residents have to keep somebody else's dog in their garage every night. I don't think that, the services we're getting are as good as we should be getting, you know, I kind of feel like they treat us like second class. Yeah. They take care of Winchendon before they take care of Templeton, that's what I mean. I think we'd be better off having our own, and it would, accountability would be able to be more accountable. We don't get, you know, our weekly reports from them. We don't get any reports, but. So, and I don't, what are we paying for? What are the residents paying for if we don't know what they're doing?
There's 21,500 in the fiscal 27 budget for animal control officer. Get us either a part-time or on-call for the person. We already have the truck. We're already paying for everything right now except for the fuel, and maybe the oil changes, maybe not, maybe some of the time, maybe all of the time.
Jeff, if I might, I believe that would be enough to get us two, on call. It'd be between $15,000 and $17,000 to pay for two on call if we pay them by the call. So.
This would also, and I don't plan on it, but I mean, pass it, but. The possibility that would be. You put an override fund in front of town voters. We're gonna have to list. You know, if you do 3 million, okay, you have to break that down where it's going.
Right.
Because the first year, that's where it has to go. Following year, then it's just makes the pile bigger. So. If we want to put a little money in, you know, for that, it'd be one of the things we could list for, you know, if the residents want. More police, more fire, they want their own animal control officer, they're not satisfied with this, if they want to do it all in-house. That would be something to put in there. Oh, but already there's 21.5 in the budget already, and we already have the truck,
And the building.
so.
I really have no dog in this fight. I hate the pun, but,
Intended.
They do.
Yeah.
Not in this fight, though.
I keep mine out of, I try to keep them out of jail, keep them
Yeah,
going out of jail.
One, two.
I think it's smart. I think I would like to see with the residents, if they would like to have their own dog officer. I think they should have the right to choose, instead of us, you know, with this contract, I would like to give them the opportunity to, you know, a town meeting, tell us what they would like to do. I think it's smart.
The only problem I have with that is, so the contract's up in what, June?
Yeah.
June, and then town meetings, May.
May 13th.
Yeah. And that doesn't really give us a lot of time to advertise for the position if we're gonna, or, you know, somebody to, if somebody isn't certified, send them.
But we'd be hiring them on fiscal 2027,
Right.
so it's really difficult to hire them unless we know what the budget will be like.
So-
I'd be fiscally responsible.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the way it works right now is Monday through Friday, you guys are talking about 7 to 5. They get, whoever's on that shift gets a lump sum of money. If we were to pay someone per call, and so they're on duty for a certain amount of hours, but they're not making any money unless they go on a call, that's a lot of time that they're not making any money and not able to work another job. So I don't know who would take that type of job. So we would have to run a similar system that Winchendon's running. And so we would end up paying about as much as Winchendon is paying.
The 40,000, you mean?
There's quite a few retired senior citizens, not, you know, between, maybe I'll just pick up something, fill in the time. Might be interested in doing it. There's a lot of people that do have the time and would be able to make that work if given the opportunity. Now, you can't really say it's not feasible without trying it.
But if
I
we
just-
get, sorry,
The residents. Shouldn't just let them.
But if we say, okay, we're gonna go for it and we don't add any money to the budget and it doesn't work, what are we gonna do when FY 27 starts?
Have a bunch of barking, biting dogs.
Yeah, you're not gonna have animal
You
control.
have $21,500, so I guess you'd probably add to that line item.
But if we're already past town meeting, how would you do that? You'd have to.
No, that's what I mean, when you're re-examining the budget, you probably have to add to it.
Right,
I hate
so,
to say that, but you have to add to it.
so we're
Yeah.
gonna basically add in what we're,
Well, we don't have to add in for a full-time and 3 part-time
They-
employees.
they're not full-time. They're not benefited employees.
Cassandra was full-time.
No, they share those Monday through Friday shifts. And then if whoever's on shift, I forget how they do the call part, but whoever's on shift, that day, once that shift ends, if they're called out, or whoever's taking the night shift, if they're called out, they get paid a different sort of hourly thing, and the towns pay directly for that.
Majority of the towns in the surrounding area do on-call, and it works.
But I think this is what they mean, though. They have certain set of hours that they're getting a chunk of money during the day to be on call.
We can offer a stipend if we need to.
Yes, that's what we're doing now. So that's what I'm saying. You can have your own service, but it's gonna go up a lot. Because
Then we should accommodate in the budget for it in case that's what the residents want.
I don't think it has to go up a lot.
Sorry.
those are the costs. You could try and pay them less, but you have to cover the same 24 hours. So however you sort of work that, I mean, you could give them a stipend from just 7 to 12, I guess, but people might not want to work. If they're not making enough money and they need to work additional jobs, then they're not going to take our job.
But they
So-
probably don't want to apply.
Maybe they don't, yeah, maybe they don't want a big job. Maybe they only want they just love the animals and they want to help out.
So Winchendon has this system where, you get a stipend for being, on shift that day, and even they are having, turnover issues.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I was just sitting here and thinking, and we're talking about, let's say, revamping the present contract. For a future contract. And then we're talking about potentially turning the whole service back on ourselves. And we have a month or a couple months to do this planning, if that's the case, and no money. So I would suggest that if we want to do something as far as bringing the ACO here, we put that in an override question, like you were saying, put that in an override question. And we look at this contract, if we get it settled and we get it the way we want, that we look at it, if we can, for a year rather than 3.
If we could,
Just
extending the contract with changes. Extend the agreement with changes for another year. If they agree.
and then if the town at the meeting decides for the override and the ACO is included in that, then we'll have the money to do it in the following year and move forward.
If we do decide to go that route, I don't think there'd be any need to extend it. And you don't dip your toes into the pool, you just jump right in. No, so
Some people do.
I don't know, that's how I work. I just,
I hear you. Don't walk down the stairs, go off the board.
right? So I think if we're gonna do this, we wanna make sure that we're doing it right. Absolutely. I think I love the idea of, putting it in the override question.
Mhm.
I think that's great. Definitely letting the residents decide. It's ultimately
It's
their.
not that we're passing it to them, it's just that
Yeah.
it's really important. Because this will be extra money that'll be added to the budget and they should have the say if they want to go with something a little different, what we had before. With some changes or if they wanna keep their own.
I honestly don't feel like it's gonna be an extremely high or extremely big difference in what we already have budgeted. Like I said, the surrounding towns that have on call, they're not paying, you know. They're not paying what Winchendon's paying, they're. What we're paying, yes. The salary that they're getting.
So you're essentially saying you want me to put this in the budget and then when we go for the override, it'll just be included. I don't,
It's already in the budget.
well, but you
It
want,
was already in the budget.
yeah, well, some of it. But you want to cover it all ourselves. You're gonna have to increase the number. So we're just gonna add that to the budget and that'll just be part of the override. I mean, the question itself, the questions can only be written a certain way. So to put the ACO in there, I mean, I'd have to look at the different ways you can write it, but it's not the way I would have suggested we write the override question. So I guess, but what we could do is we could put it in the budget and then it would just be part of part of whatever request we were asking for and depending on what we got, we would have to cut the budget accordingly. But yeah, if you don't want to renew the agreement, then we would have to put something in the budget and then continue on with our plan to try and fund it via an override and cuts.
And I don't have the current one in front of me, but this one would state you would have to have money set aside to cover any costs incurred by Winchendon between the notice of termination and the time frame that is required that we give them.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want to cancel it, I'd have to look at what the time frame is, but you probably want to do it as soon as possible.
Are they gonna have 30 days, right?
30 days, and Winchendon shall be entitled compensation for all satisfactory work completed by the termination date, so if we're gonna owe them some money, we have to have some money, something.
Yep.
To cover that.
Not unless the contract's over.
That's why I say I don't have the.
Yeah, it's the 30th, June 30th when the contract's over.
You're supposed to give them a certain
The town of
notice.
Winchendon shall be entitled to compensation for all satisfactory work completed prior to the termination date as determined by the town, such payment to exceed the fair value of services provided. Either party may terminate this contract at any time for convenience by providing written notice. So it's just if you terminated the contract for any reason, but it doesn't, not if the contract expires, then we don't owe them anything. It's just a non-renewal.
I would like to make a motion that we work past 10 o'clock.
Oh, God. Second.
Supposed to work past 10 o'clock. And second, Mr. Lane,
Oh, sure.
Ms. Grace,
Yes.
Ms. Bassel,
Yes.
Ms. Bill,
I suppose.
Ms. Planet says, yes. To work till midnight time.
By yourself.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where. They're coming up with this payroll budgets, because even Lemonster. Their full-time paid position is $49,514.
What does full-time mean though?
Full-time job.
No, I know, but some people refer to full-time as, so in Massachusetts, you get benefits and you're part of the pension at 20+ hours.
But even still, regardless, it's $49,514.
Full-time employee will be increased in retirement, health insurance.
Mhm.
Tell me about it.
What's that?
Tell me about it, Dan.
Mhm. And their
Wait.
part-time position is between 15,000 and 25,000. That's Lemonster. That's 3 times the size of us.
So so it's full-time, they're also paying benefits on
Benefit.
top of that. That could be on a family plan, and so we factor in about 20 grand for benefits when we don't know what we're necessarily gonna pay.
So if it's 49, what's it pay again?
That's 49,514.
So that's 50K plus 30, so that's 80 that you have to budget.
80, yeah. It's still,
Roughly.
well,
Not this,
but that's
yeah,
Lemonster.
that's
You know?
roughly the benefit cost.
They're 3 times as busy as we would ever dream of being, I'm sure.
That will be. Um. Vision in the override, whether we get increase it.
No.
So what are we gonna do? Because the town meeting is until, the election isn't until May 18th. So what do we do with the agreement? Like, what if we don't get as big of an override as we thought? Do we try and sign an agreement with Winchendon, or? So I'm trying to think of practically how to do this.
Right now, I think that would be one of the 2 fallback positions. The other fallback would be try the on-call per diem approach. That's. The override passes them, but I know it's a coin flip and it doesn't make somebody's job easy, but
I'm not gonna manage them. The police department's gonna, it's gonna make my life harder when we have turnover problem. But that's what you guys want. I mean, it's what it is.
this is why they pay us the big buck. Remember that. That would certainly be something on the agenda for the 6th. In conjunction with the. Whatever override things you guys send and we discuss and vote on.
I'll put the ACO thing back on the agenda.
Yes, please.
So the last item on the agenda is a little executive session. At this time, I would move that the board enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A-2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, public service director. If an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body and the chair so declares, and I do, the board will reconvene in open session only for the purpose of adjourning the meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? On the motion to enter executive session, how would you vote, Mr. May?
Yes.
Ms. Graves?
Yes.
Ms. Vassal?
Yep.
Mr. Toth?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett is yes. All